Alrighty, let's get started here. It is 9:01, which means I'm 1 minute late, and I'm going to get fired
Oh God.
for being 1 minute late.
Yikes.
But anyways, all right. So, if you guys are just coming in, once again, you are listening to our in-server podcast, One More Cup of Coffee. Today is our second episode, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Aster. How you doing?
I'm perfectly okay. Schoolwork, but yeah, that's basically much it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, schoolwork's a bit of a balancing act, isn't it? Do you often like? Because I know that you do some work on lore as well. Do you often feel like, as you're doing your homework, you're like, I kind of don't feel like I want to do this. I'm just gonna go read up on some lore and then get back to homework.
Funny enough, like I guess my college has like a lot of readings, so you do those for your schoolwork, and then you used to go like, oh, I want to take a break, and then you go to a PDF in Genshin to read even more lore. That's longer than what you're supposed to be reading for school. So that's basically it.
That's fair. I gotta say that's fair enough. So before we kind of get started, before we really get into the whole sauce of the whole thing, I want to ask what got you into Genshin lore? What was your start in it, and how did you sort of get hooked and into doing what you're doing today?
Uh, so I think it was back in 1.5 that I started feeling my interest in Genshin was kind of plateauing, because I think at 1.5 there wasn't really a lot. There was just a Serenity pot. And then I found out that there was a feature in Genshin where you can read artifact lore. I didn't even know that artifact lore was a thing. So I went to the archive and I was seeing people saying that, dude, Scaramouche has got new lore. And I was like, what? He did? And then I found the Pale Flame set, and now here I am. Covering Genshin lore.
So okay. So tell us about what about the Pale Flame set?
It had Scaramouche lore. Oh no!
Oh goodness,
It
you're
had,
all the
I
same.
guess it had
Every
like the
single one of
Senora
you.
stuff.
I guess.
Oh,
Oh
no.
my gosh. This is going to be a great podcast. Excellent start to the whole thing.
If we just-
Awesome, cool. So we're setting the precedent of this to be heavily Scaramouche, as we may or may not find out in a bit. But before we delve too deep into that, so Scaramouche is with the Fadwe,
Oh god.
and from what I understand, a lot of what you're interested in is about the end game, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, just kind of in a nutshell, can you describe exactly what the Fado's end game is? To your best understanding of it.
So, like, the plot that they're setting up for this right now is that they're trying to fight the heavenly principles, which is interesting because it actually correlates this, I guess, the same vibe as the Abyss, but they're two different factions. And for me personally, like, I guess the way that they are theming the end game of the Fatui is that there's supposed to be this really all-out big war that the series is trying to plan, because if you've read the gemstone, the cryo gemstone that he used to ascend stuff, the Sarita kind of says, like, burn the old world away from me, or something like that, which is really reminiscent to what Celestia does with the old civilizations. So I don't know, so I wonder if that's what the Fatui want to do. If they're trying to mimic the energy in the Archon's Gnosis and try to weaponize that somehow, some way, and to weaponize that against Celestia, like, fight fire with fire, celestial magic with celestial magic. Kind of like how they use delusions as a manufactured visions. That's what I'm getting at their plan. But maybe they're planning something else entirely with the 7 Gnosis. Maybe they're trying to make a doorway straight to Celestia. Or maybe they're just trying to get Celestia's attention without starting a whole-out war. So I'm not quite. We're not quite sure either at the moment. But it's a fascinating thought, I guess, on what are these Fatui going to do? Like, they're stronger than humans, but are they really as strong as Celestia that can erase civilizations altogether? What is their big plan against gods that are capable of doing that? Interestingly enough.
Yeah, so because that's kind of like my question too. Like, if I'm hearing that Celestia has the capabilities to wipe out civilization, so why begin to start a war with someone like that?
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I suppose that one thing is that, okay, well, let's assume they are starting a war with who? If it's Celestia, well, okay, we all know where that may go, unless there's like some sort of secret weapon plot device that I've yet to figure out. Perhaps it'll be in Samara, who knows? But I imagine, if they, oh God forbid, they have a cataclysm event in Genshin. Those net
Oh god,
those
please. Yeah.
in my experience, okay, just to bring it out there, in my experience, cataclysm events never go well in any game. To my personal understanding of things. So hopefully they they don't take that route. But would you imagine, the whole entire nation of Snezhnaya going to war with like every other nation, or do you think it's more, Celestia that they're after?
I think that Snezhnaya, in and of itself, is such a big political figure that right now they have political tensions with other nations, but because they're such a powerful entity in Tivat, like how they have control of the bank of one of the biggest banks in Liyue, the land of commerce, or they have where they're trying to infiltrate the Knights of Avonius, well, who also have like connections with them. I think their war with Tivat is more political. Like it's not actually like a big cataclysm event. If that's in my opinion, I think if they're going to do that, that's going to be reserved for Celestia itself. So yeah, that's basically it.
I see, I see. So essentially, what they're doing is really kind of sneaking their way on the inside, like as a whole, like kind of infiltrating and then kind of what's the assimilating into it, and then if there's any moment of weakness, they can just be right there. So essentially, a lot of it is, I suppose, espionage, as we've definitely played from the different stories, right, and plotting with different other people. So I don't know if this is really mentioned, or perhaps you may have some theories about that. But why do you think, or how did Snezhnaya really come to grow their network? Like how did they just suddenly, how were they able to pull this off?
I think I was supposed to like cover this somewhere in a video, but I'm not quite sure. So every kind of superpower, whether it's a government or not, one of your biggest assets will always be science, economics, and politics. Usually they're very intertwined. Um, I think it's that's why one of the biggest things that Sejnaya has, its resources economically, which is why Pantalone was, in my opinion, I think it's one of the most important linchpins in the organization. Pantalone being the merchant that that basically capitalized on Mondstadt and Liyue. I think having that, firstly, that political hold on Mondstadt and Liyue are very important in establishing the need of those countries to even collaborate with them in the first place. Another one is with science. Dottore is a very good example of this, where you want to make sure that people know that you're powerful. Usually when a nation is the one that's in control of the most advanced kinds of resources, the other nations are going to lag behind. Fontaine is a good nation that's probably on par with Snezhnaya in terms of lifestyle, but then you have the third aspect, which is the military. I don't think that, like, while Liyue has the Millilith and while the Mondstadt has the Knights of Avonius, just by combining those three aspects makes the Fatui such a mortifying global superpower, I guess, because the Harbingers themselves, like just the Harbingers alone, they are known for their delusions. Like Venti does this in the Mondstadt Archon Quest, where people are afraid of touching the Fatui because they have to deal with the Harbingers. And that's not entirely wrong. The Harbingers are, I guess, like one of the most important players in the establishment of the Fatui's networks all across the globe. Nezhnite would probably start falling apart if the Traveler decides to, start 1v1ing all of the Harbingers. But I think, like, because it was such an uncontested power in those three aspects, it was able to grow so much that right now it has such a stable hold on the entirety of the nation. Of course, for Sumeru, Fontaine, and Natlan, we would have no idea. It's virtually impossible to to theorize on that yet. I guess for Sumeru, they have Dottore. Oh no, Dottore does have establishments there already. So that's another that's another stronghold that they most likely have control over. But it's really difficult to overthrow a superpower like that. I guess, like, even if the other nations try to catch up, I guess. Because the Fatui are just such an established nation already. So it will take the Traveler fighting the Harbingers to topple the power hierarchy of the Fatui. You start from the top, and then it all comes crashing down from there. I think we already saw that with the infighting, I guess, with the Harbingers, and then now that Scaramouche is gone and Signora is disappeared from the plot line, let's just go with that. The Fatui will start collapsing slowly but surely, unless the other Harbingers, double their work and catch the divisions that were left behind in a way. But even then, those divisions are most likely dealing with other different aspects of controlling Tevat. Let's just go with that word, I guess. Like, managing the Fatui, sure, as an organization. So I think if you just, I don't know, cut the Fatui by half, maybe you'll start seeing the power ladder, this dynamic start collapsing. But it has to start with the linchpins, the people on top. Something like that, I guess. That's my theory, at least. I would have no idea.
No, that actually really makes a lot of sense, and it's interesting that you bring sort of like the essential aspects, or perhaps how you perceive what are the central or foundational aspects of successful nation, or perhaps successful political agenda or campaign. So I think it's kind of interesting to see it from that, because it is a world with its own politics. So of course we should definitely reference what we know from based on our real world politics, and seeing the advantages they could give. Now I kind of want to talk about the Harbingers for a bit. What is their relationship like with each other? Because I know that of course they're all loyal to the Tsarista and everything, but are there any stories of their interactions with each other, or do they or as probably Tor says, they've never heard of each other, or they probably know each other by name, and they're just like, oh, that's it. They're just another person, another colleague I'll never see.
I'm kind of imagining them like on a round table, like just sitting there. Like they obviously just don't like each other or something like that, like once a year. But I think it's been mentioned somewhere that they have their own divisions. They overlap every now and then. Like Pierrot sent Scaramouche to the 1.1 event. The Inazuma Archon Quest is basically spearheaded by Signora, Scaramouche, and Pierrot for the Tatsuragami all the way up to the final parts of it. Child also says that very well, that every Harbinger has their own agenda. So I'm guessing that they overlap in terms of just like the resources they share, and then like the amount of work that they need to put up. I think for one nation there's most likely like 2 to 3 Harbingers that are dealing with it. Like in Mondstadt, Scaramouche has been to Mondstadt. Signora has also been to Mondstadt, and Dottore was also like an important figure in Mondstadt. But I don't know if I don't they don't like each other. I guess. Like, I don't know. Scaramouche says that Senora and Child are unreliable before leaving with the with the Gnosis. But I don't think they like each other. Child doesn't like each other. Maybe they're just loyal to like the Sarisa as a figurehead. But to each other, they're like, it's fair game. I hate you. And then they like beat each other up in the workplace, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they just like maybe their divisions just kind of pile up with pair up with each other if they have to. But maybe they just have like their own cluster of people that work under them and something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you can kind of, to think about how a structure like that would be so successful, even though they kind of, quote unquote, have, well, I don't know if it's healthy or unhealthy beef with each other. Because when I look at the quote that Tori in chat posted, that says it's from Child, and it says every Harbinger has their own agenda. What comes to my mind is, well, if they all have their own agenda, are they really following a plan at all, or are they kind of just, going along and, as they see fit in their own way? So just picking your brain a little bit, do you think that, it just, the Cerise knows no matter what they do, they're still going to fall along the lines of the overall grand scheme, or do you think it's kind of like a mind game where Cerise like, you do, okay, Child, you do this, Scaramouche, you mess with Child, and, Pierrot, you mess with both of them?
I think the Sarisa, if I were to put her down into like a archetype in anime, it would be like the charismatic overhead figure of any bad antagonist organization, I guess, where she goes to like she can offer each of them their like a benefit. Like for Senora, it was that the Crimson Witch of Flame will be suppressed. For Scaramouche, it was probably like the delusion for the heart. For Tartaglia, it was Tartaglia saw her as a warrior as well. So I think if the Sarisa were to be anything, it would be like a she probably like I don't know, like a part of me wants to say that she's pretty hands off, but at the same, because most of the time it's like maybe it's Pierrot that's actually pulling all the strings of how the actual operations work, and maybe the Sarisa is just there to like oversee everything and then like create the delusions and stuff like that. But at the same time, that just questions even more. Why are the Fatui Harbingers like so loyal to her, but like they're not that loyal to each other if they're supposed to be following the same plan? Maybe the Sarita just trusts them. Maybe it's in the delusions if she can like control them remotely, individually, like the Harbingers, because I think Victor says that like each of the Harbingers get a delusion from the Sarita herself. Or maybe it's just like something much more sinister in the background.
I see. Yeah, that's an interesting point you make. Now, as soon as you said the name Pierrot, I saw chat have their simultaneous neurons fire at the exact same time. So can you tell us a little more about that? Actually, his I guess we can kind of start as what kind of character do we know him as so far, and what's his role?
So, on the top of my head, chat, feel free to correct me. Pierrot was from an ancient civilization that was destroyed by the veil of sin. Basically, he said that there was a foolish ruler that didn't listen to his warnings and instead listened to the sages. What happened to that civilization was that it got destroyed by the divine retributions, and now through divine retribution, and now the Fatui were established to fight against those foundational principles, basically. As a character, though, Pierrot was the guy that told Scaramouche to go to the 1.1 event, but didn't actually tell him anything to expect, basically. And then another one was that he was the perpetrator of the Tatarigami incident, where Nathan, the guy from the Resistance that was serving as an incognito spy, was under his division, where they released the Tatsuragami onto the island, and it was under his division. Borenka was one of the lieutenants, if I remember correctly, that was assigned to that place. And one of the things that the orders to that division basically said was that the people of Inazuma that want to help the cause of the Tatsuragami incident will be shipped back to Snezhnaya, but they will have no innate purpose to the Fatui, but they would work just as fine as living test samples.
Oh my.
Now, he also had a password called "That's a Killer Joke," so I don't know. He sounds dope. But I think Pierrot is like Pierrot from the Commedia is a sad clown motif, but the Pierrot of Genshin Impact is much more. He's out there at the very least. He does feel a bit more sadistic than what you would normally hear from something known as a Pierrot, because a Pierrot was I guess historically the motif is that it's a pathetic clown that was laughed at by everyone. That's what the Commedia basically says. Now, as a reverse to that, Pierrot says that he will embrace that kind of jester and laugh at the face of the heavenly principles that laugh at the face of the heavenly principles that screwed his civilization over. Now, it's unknown if that civilization is actually Conria, but given that the Fatui were established 500 years ago, it's a safe assumption, at the very least. So something like that.
So he's basically the Joker, really, if you think about it.
Yes, yeah, now that I think about it, yes. One of his quotes was a reference to the Joker, actually. Quotes, I say that with, like, quotation marks. Yeah, that's a killer joke.
Yeah,
I think that's joke. Like a. Yeah. That's one of his passwords. So he lives in a society.
He sure does. He just wanted to protect his society. That's so sad.
Society.
Yeah, what I like about Genshin as a whole is that there's obviously so many references towards other works of art as well. And for those of you who don't know, the Killing Joke is, I believe, the explanation as to how the Joker in the DC universe, DC Comics, became the Joker, like his origin story and everything, why he is the way he is, why he lives in the society and which society he lives in, that sort of thing. So it's kind of a nice homage to the DC Comics. Funnily enough, like I think the new update, they named one of the achievements after like a song that the Carpenters made famous called "Yesterday Once More." So a bunch of you. Yeah. If there's anything I know about references in Genshin, it's names of songs. So that's all I'm good for. That's my contribution to this podcast. Thank you. So but anything else is lost on me. Now, are we anticipating No, actually, I'm gonna leave that question for last because I know what your answer is going to be in regards to anticipating new Fadoi characters.
Let's not go through that yet. Save it to the last hour or something before I go on a tangent here.
So now with the Fadoi, there is the latest patch in 2.6, and unfortunately, I have to ask you the question, how much of 2.6 have you enjoyed so far?
Oh, I love the chasm. Am I allowed to say spoilers here? It's a world quest.
I'll put it this way.
Clarify.
It's a spoiler warning, and lore by extension in itself is kind of hit or miss. We can't guarantee the correct information, but we can't guarantee you won't get spoiled. Such is the nature of this podcast and the topic itself. So, guys, if you haven't played the Chasm yet, I recommend you do, because we are going to be talking a lot about this. So I hope you guys no stay on, because we need to keep the viewership up. Now, if you guys don't want to be spoiled about it, feel free to tune out a little bit. But we probably will be talking about the Chasm. So, starting right now, by the way. So, how far are you into the Chasm? Have you explored the entire area? Are you finished, or have you still got some ways to go?
So, I went to the mill, and I got the boss fight. I got the Archon Quest. Oh my gosh, the world quest for that one, by the way, was such a doozy. That was a really long one, but I got to the talking mushroom, and I got to the Fatui guys that were stranded there. Unfortunately, my heart just sank for them. But I think I'm not even scratching the surface of the Chasm, just because I haven't been able to play much, but. Yeah, that's basically it. I've been really enjoying it. I love the feel of the Chasm so much. I think that they really outdone themselves with the area on top looks really, really dope and looks really, really unique from the rest of Liyue. And then the underground just feels so ominous, I guess. While Enkonomiya was pretty bright most of the time, this one was just dark. So I really enjoyed it. The Chasm.
So, what were your previous predictions for the Chasm in 2.6? And have you started to sort of realize any of your predictions as you've gone through, or is it something that you're still kind of in the progress of confirming with most of your own predictions?
So I think one of my biggest predictions, I can't even remember my own shopping list of predictions for that one, but I think my biggest prediction for that one was that the entire the area itself was an ancient civilization that was destroyed. I think that was one of my bigger claims for 2.6 is Chasm, and I'm pretty happy to say that was that's the case. Unfortunate for the civilization that was dead, but as for Dane, I don't really think that I had any bigger predictions besides that we were going to learn more about the Curse of Immortality. But I think one of the predictions that I actually got wrong was that it was Zhongli, or it was the Geo Archon that put the seal, when it was actually the Liyue Qixing. So that was actually pretty interesting that the Liyue Qixing has the power to seal up a whole place like that. I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty dope. Or maybe it was Zhongli, and maybe I'm just getting my facts wrong. Chat, please feel free to correct me.
I guess we'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out as chat goes on. But yeah, I think it's most of I think that's it. I haven't scratched that much of the surface.
And tell us your journey about the giant mushroom. What did you first think when you looked at it and basked in its rainbow glory?
First thing I said was, I actually thought that was Paimon speaking, and then I was like, who in the world is Shamaran? I was like, was that how you say that? Sharaman? And then
Sheeshroom.
I was Sheeshroom, right? Sheeshroom. I was so convinced that it was Paimon before I actually got to the mushroom. My brain kind of stopped for a bit, because I did that on stream, and my brain kind of stopped, and I was just like, why is Paimon talking to us in front of a mushroom? And then I saw that it was actually a whole other creature. The Sheeshroom was like, whew. I think we kind of could shroomed a little bit too much there, huh? Aether, Traveler Buddy, Buckaroo. I think everyone was not ready for the Sheeshroom actually being able to talk. I'm kind of sad we didn't get to ask it more lore questions, but we did get, Sumeru hints about the what could we possibly see in Sumeru, which are mushrooms.
Oh, mushrooms. Interesting. So perhaps some of his kin or some of its kin over in Sumeru. So yeah, because I personally thought the mushroom was kind of random. Really, it's just like, well, it's a giant mushroom, and we're just kind of doing whatever it says. But at the same time, but at the same time, we kind of get a little bit of Sumeru. Do you think the talking mushroom is going to play a bigger part, or do you think it's just going to be there as a giant talking mushroom?
I think that the sheesh room itself is just going to be there, but like its little sheesh mushroom, the sheesh fungi, are gonna be in Sumeru. Which I don't think I'm ready for that, by the way. I don't think I'm ready for an entire area of like talking mushrooms. There's just something in me that probably can't take it. There's a whole area of like talking mushrooms. Ah!
That is a possibility, actually. It's just like little mushroom houses in Sumeru.
It's so cute, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you've gone through the sheesh room, and how far? So you've met Dainsleif, and now you're going through that, and so you've completed the Archon Quest. Is that correct?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
upon completing that, we find some very interesting things about Dainsleif himself, and of course, like kind of the well, I wouldn't say key players. They're actually the new mobs, really, because I remember when we first those knights. I keep forgetting what the proper term is for those mobs.
Black Serpent Knights or Shadowy Husks?
Okay, I'm gonna be real with
One
you.
of those two.
I don't really know the difference between those two.
I
I think
just call
it's
them
the
like
Black
the
Serpent
things that
Knights.
hurt. Yeah.
Yes. Everything hurts in that universe.
Everything hurts.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
we the Black Serpent Knights and everything. We kind of learned that there's this whole order in this ancient civilization of Conria. So did you have any predictions about that when you first saw the Black Serpent Knights, or was this something that was still very widely known or predicted within the community?
So I actually, what do you call this? I made an oopsie because at first I was always assuming that the heralds were the ones that were supposed to be like the royal guards or something, like the vanguard. Because if you look at the description, it says vanguards or something. But now that we got it to Serpent Knights, the Dainsleif's like if Dainsleif was ever to be corrupted, he'd look like that. That would look pretty dope. But then that just means that I guess Conria has like several sectors where it's for the oh my gosh. I was about it's for the clergies, like that's why we have the evangelists, lectors or stuff like that, maybe. And then we have like the Black Serpent Knights, which were royal guard. And maybe the Abyss Mages were and the Hilly Churls were lower class, working class, civilians, maybe. So that's basically it. That's what I think. Like what was wrong with with my theory that the heralds were the royal guard, stuff like that. But it was actually the shadowy husks, the proletariat.
Proletariat. That's what
Oh
that's
gosh.
what people in all caps. So of course, yes, definitely had to read. This is for the people who are listening on YouTube, by the way, who can't see chat. So I'm kind of obligated to explain what's going on in regards to what's happening in chat and everything. So okay, cool. So because I remember we play once playing through that, and then we found that there's a quote unquote fountain that's upside down. Like the whole thing is kind of upside down, which is crazy to think about. And I think at one point I tried to see if I could climb up and swim on the ceiling, but of course that didn't really work out because I essentially could not get myself up there, and as the devs intended, but I was very, very just keen on doing it. Well, mostly because I thought you were supposed to, but I found out, you weren't. So that was
No,
that
no,
was
if you
pretty.
go up there, there's like primo gems.
Really? Oh wow, goodness me. All right. Well,
Trust me, I'm a
that's all
Mihoyo
for
there.
today.
Am I allowed to say that?
That's all for today. I'm gonna go try that now. But yeah, so because now Dainsleif talks about the curse of immortality, and we kind of get to understand that a bit further. And he says that, I believe he says, no one understands the curse better than I do, right? Or perhaps no one has kind of has a good intimate or good intimate knowledge of it, as much as he has. Do you think that that's a factually correct statement, or do you think there could be others out there as well that are kind of just hanging around, or perhaps elsewhere, that are also living with the same curse?
I think that. All right. I guess it depends on what context I'm comparing this, or we're comparing this against. So I'm going to compare this with like someone like the Abyss Heralds and the Husks. Like the Husks are like, I guess, not as sentient at the moment as Dainsleif. Maybe I think, or I remember Dainsleif was mentioning that he was able to stay cognizant because of something. Like he said, they're like, how could they be aware without it? And I feel like the curse would mentally destroy someone very slowly. And whatever that thing that Dainsleif has is able to stop that kind of erosion. Or at least to the point that he's still um capable of being self-aware as an entity. But I do believe that there might be other creatures that have lived for that long, but are still able to stay at that same level of self-awareness as Dane. One of them might be the first Harbinger, Pierrot. If Pierrot was from Conria, then that means that Pierrot also has access to the same 500 years of 500 years of Curse of Immortality, and that means that he might have been able to withstand the effects of the curse of immortality through some mystical way. Another one is probably Daughter, Albedo's master, who was from Conria and was blamed, accused, or was the reason for Conria's downfall. If she was able to stay cognizant enough for several years to be able to create Albedo and still teach him about the ways of alchemy, maybe she also has that level of self-awareness in a way that Dainsleif could also have. So maybe it is more of a celestial power of some sorts, or maybe it's an artifact. We're not quite sure at the moment of what it could really be, but it could be possible that there's a network, or at least a group of people that are Conrian and stayed Conrian. I think Kaya's father was also mentioned as, as Kaya is a descendant from Conria, meaning that maybe his father was also, was probably from the area 500 years ago. Unless he's an abyss mage, and we don't want to talk about them trying to do the do to create Kaya. So maybe there are survivors that have access to a kind of magic that can slow down the 500 years thing. We don't know. We don't even know anything about Kaya right now because, what do you call this? Kaya is very mysterious in and of itself. So that's interesting. But yeah, I think if we understand Kaya, or at least we trace back Kaya's lineage, even if he's not from the royal family, because I've seen a lot of people saying that he was from the royal family, but there was really no proof about it. But there's a good chunk that there's survivors that are still self-aware. Maybe they're just, mentally stronger, I guess, or maybe they just have something more mystical. I guess what Dainsleif said was, pretty accurate in terms if you compare him to the blessed. I just tried to combine two words, black black serpent knights, but he's not the only unique instance if you try to look for other cases, like maybe Pierrot, Ryan daughter, etc., etc., something like that. So we'll just need to find that out in the future on what is this thing that's keeping Dainsleif still cognizant after everything. Or who knows, maybe he's, he did say that he's slowly being corrupted. Maybe it's not really it's most likely not a permanent fix. It's most likely just a delay of some sort. So that's interesting.
Random question, completely unrelated. Who do you think is going to crack first?
Don't worry about it.
Dainsleif or Albedo?
Albedo.
Why is that?
No. Let's see. There's something about Albedo that kind of scares me, I guess. Like, he seems really chill, relaxed, but I guess it's because it's more physical than Dane. I guess if it was Dane, if he were to actually, if it took him, for 500 years, he's fine. So, why build on that? But I guess if he was to crack, he'll become like a big, scary, abyss mob. But for Albedo, it's like, he said that he was going to destroy Mondstadt if he loses control, so that's kind of worrying. And Venti and Dane are also hinting that they know something about Albedo, and there has to be a reason why Venti is still awake right now. Venti's like usually only awake if it's like if it's important, I think, because most of the time he's asleep. And I think it even hints that he was asleep before the Traveler woke up, because he didn't know that Dvalin's name was Storm Terror right now. So that's interesting. Maybe, I feel like Albedo would crack first. Honestly, that's kind of scary. No, Clee.
So there you go. That's the prediction. We'll probably get a Albedo weekly boss first.
Boss fight.
So one cool thing that I found about, or you get to find out is I saw someone in chat go, it's not fair. They've finally mastered teleportation, and we figured out that because one of the first things that Dainsleif remarked was like, I ran through this portal and here I am in this chasm, and you're just looking at it and going like, okay, well, guess we're stuck together again, and it's confirmed.
Oh, no.
It's confirmed by one of the what was the Abyss Herald? I can't remember. They all have different names: Abyss Herald, Abyss Lector, Abyss something. I'm just gonna say it's basically an Abyss Mage on crack. So essentially, one of them confirmed that the teleportation or the portals was a network, right? So seems to imply there's a little bit of organization. Now, have there been any follow-up theories on this? Like, perhaps this is like already there, this is like old technology, or have people been kind of just been looking at it going like, can't figure this one out?
For the Abyss teleportation, I think a lot of people who are looking at the teleport waypoints, I think even Paimon says that's basically like the same thing, where it's connected to each other, but it wasn't endpoint to endpoint because there seems to be interference. And I think one of the more popular theories is that the Abyss Order has the jurisdiction of, if you enter, where do you go? If you follow, you go to this place based on what the Abyss Order wants you to go. Maybe it's like, if I create the portal, I get jurisdiction on where the people that pass through the portal go through. Or maybe Dainsleif just got horribly lost. We don't know. He could have just gotten horribly lost. But another interesting one there, I think, was how come the traveler can't go through the portals, I think. So, like, I think people were also asking and speculating that maybe either Lumine or the Abyss Herald didn't want him to enter, so maybe they don't allow you to enter that if you're not, I guess if you're not VIP or something. Or you need to have technology from Conria that allows you to enter in the first place.
And
those are just speculations, of course.
For you Lumine players out there, that's Aether doesn't allow you in. Just putting that out.
Oh my god! Right? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a whole thing and a half. Do you have there been any theories about that? As in, like, is it properly split into two consecutive universes where, one is with Aether being the protagonist, with the twin being the antagonist, and then and vice versa, or is this something that's kind of like it's canonically Aether, like that is the protagonist or protagonist, etc.
Oh no, this is treading on some thin ice. Listen, I only chose Aether because I thought that he looked cool in the crop top, okay? I think it's just alternate universes. Like, that's just it. But they just use Aether for the promotional art because I think I don't really have any reason. But I don't think they have any reason for that. I think they are changing that. But that's it. But
Gotcha.
Like, that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. No clue.
Wise choice. I can see the brink of war from my laptop already. looking at chat. Hey, listen, chat. I'm a Lumine main. All right. Well, not a Lumine main, as in, like, I chose Lumine. I don't know if anybody's a Traveler main here. If you are, more power to you. So, but it's just something I'm very curious about because, from what I see, a lot of the time, especially
oh god,
in regards to when people describe the lore, it's usually on the perspective that Aether is the main character or the protagonist, and Lumine is the antagonist. So I was just curious, if there's a proper or plausible explanation for it, because it's not the first time for me. Even going back, I don't know if Clem mentioned this, but I know that a lot of other people also put that in the perspective. Is it just a popularity thing, really, in a sense, or is there actually some evidence or some sort of documentation, let's say, to kind of explain why people are, well, personally, how I perceive it is most people like to really explain it from Aether's perspective.
Well, for me personally, I like using the name Aether just because, like, I don't like using the word traveler because, like, I like using names. I guess, like, I don't think that there's, I mean, if there's actual evidence of that, I would love to see that personally, because I'm actually pretty curious about that question. If the traveler, like, what is the system of how the travelers are both MCs but both like antagonists at the same time? Maybe it's just different universes. Maybe we're overthinking this, but that's why this is a lore thing. But yeah, I would be interested. I would be interested to hear that if they have anything. That'd be cool.
Oh my goodness! I think we've secured ourselves a part 2 for this podcast. Looking at the reactions. Oh man!
Oh god!
Oh, that's great. That's what this is all about. So now I'd like to talk about the ancient civilization itself that we kind of get to interact with and learn a bit more, which is Conria. So now we understand that Conria itself went through its own cataclysm. Haha, very funny. Yeah, but at least I didn't get to play it when the cataclysm happened, right? So nothing changed in my books. So what can you kind of give us like a spark? Because I know you mentioned before that it was Albedo's master is teacher is supposedly the one that sparked the cataclysm, and it's somewhat known across people who kind of read about lore that, oh, this is a possible candidate. Are there any other less popular theories on this that you think deserves more credit or more of the spotlight?
So I think um if I were if I would have a personal take on like the entire cataclysm, I would pour it back into the prayers artifact set, which basically says that humanity and gods coexisted at a time around the antediluvian times where the firestorms and the ice storms came. The prayers artifact set also says that the gods never really intended for humanity to be very um in pain. The gods were the ones that promised that, hey, humans, you're going to have several years of prosperity, and you guys are going to evolve, and, basically that. That's why they're the heavenly envoys. There you go. That's the proper word for it. And Enjo also kind of goes with that and says that, so for Enkonomiya was a civilization that didn't have heavenly envoys because I guess they were abandoned, unfortunately. But what happened then, as time went on, as humanity grew and changed, humanity became impatient. Whenever they asked the heavenly envoys, hey, when's the prosperity that you promise? When is it going to end? Like, what's gonna happen after all these predictions you guys were doing? And the heavenly envoys never said anything. They never said anything about that. So humanity became very they became very angsty and they became very impatient. There you go, that's the word. And they actually plotted to invade the Garden of the Gods, which prompted Celestia to get super pissed at them and punish humanity, the ancient civilizations at the time. My guess is that this is a constant towards all the other ancient civilizations in a way. Maybe it was also through Conria. Maybe it wasn't Gold's fault. Maybe it was the foolish ruler or whoever is the one in charge of the Eclipse Dynasty or something like that actually pushed this kind of idea that Conria was better. Conria was known as the pride of humanity, according to Dainsleif, and it's interesting that the opening cutscene also opens up with the arrogation of mankind, another way of saying pride of humanity in a way. So I think that maybe Gold wasn't the only perpetrator to this, but the Conria King was a hero according to Jean. That's according to legend, and legends can be changed. Maybe, unfortunately, they pinned the blame on Gold. Art of Chemia, though, I think is something that is also very fascinating. The art of Chemia was something that Dainsleif was very, very not really against. He was apprehensive about because he said that there is a possibility that the art of Chemia could be used to destroy nations, and in a way, that's true. It's reflective a lot on how maybe that's what Ryan's daughter used in order to bring forth the Abyss creations. So on one hand, you have the foolish ruler is the one to blame for starting the cataclysm in the first place by wanting for more power, or maybe just to usurp the Celestia in and of itself by trying to prove that they are a stronger entity, and by that, as retribution, Gold was also what Gold retributed against that idea, and domino effect was the Cataclysm's first problem, because the Cataclysm didn't just happen because of Celestia, because according to the Dainsleif character introduction, the damage was already done. Like, it was over. The first Cataclysm was technically already done. Like, the army of the Abyss monsters trampling against, like, the people of Conria, it was done. It was fixed. Conria solved, something solved that problem at least. Like, the first problem was already done. But Celestia still decided to yeetus deletus the Conrian civilization, even after that problem was already done. So that's interesting. On like, why would they still punish Conria. What did Conria do? Or at least what did the ruling body of Conria do, in a way? Like, that's a fascinating thought for me. There's just so many theories about the Cataclysm. We'll see it in 3 years, maybe. Minimum.
Depends on how much money we sink in there and how much we roll.
True. So guys, keep rolling.
Yeah, just ignore the other things. Eyes on the prize. they'll keep
Eyes on the
improving
prize,
pity.
guys. Late game.
Yeah, they'll keep improving the pity if we keep rolling, right? But yeah, I think I see a pretty interesting a parallel to this because, with actually it's actually more of a question to me. Do you see the attempts of the Tsarista and with what is trying to be achieved as something that's similar to kind of what happened in Conria, the pride of man? Do you think it's sort of like finishing what Conria started, or do you think it's just like a completely different thing altogether, like a totally different agenda?
I think their agenda is less about Conria and more about humans. Like, how humans are currently the humans of Tivat are getting jeopardized by the heavenly principles, in a way. And I think the Abyss is what reflects on the Conrian aspects, maybe. I just hope that the Sarita has a plan, because if this plan is just if this plan isn't good enough, we're seeing a Cataclysm 2.0, and I hope Nezhnite is, ready for that.
Yeah, fair. That's definitely fair enough. Now,
I was gonna say shafted, okay? I was gonna say shafted.
Yeah,
I was
totally
going to shafted.
Definitely shafted. That's what she was gonna say. She was just afraid that Studio Shaft would sue us. But yeah, definitely not what you guys were thinking on previously. So, in regards to Conria, I guess even pre or post Cataclysm on the whole thing, what was the vibe of Celestia back then in relation to Conria? Like, I suppose, is it a before and suddenly as soon as Celestia found out, they're like, yeah, this shit isn't gonna fly. You guys are dead. Boom. Yeah. So I suppose the evolution of Celestia, how was it any different, then as it is now, or have things actually changed because of this big event?
I feel like Celestia has always been a universal constant, I guess. Like, the world can change, but Celestia can't, because it sticks too hard to its lawful principles, which is why it's probably unchanging. And a part of me just wants to say that, okay, I think one of the rules of the universe in Tivat was, I think one of the rules that one of the artifact sets mentioned, the Prayer's artifact sets, was everything returns to the profundity of the earth. I don't know why I memorized that the word profundity. I don't even know what that means. But it returns to the profundity of the earth. All ancient civilizations are meant to return to, well, basically nothing. And that's just the cycle of, civilization, of human civilization. Honestly, I think that to them, Conria was just another one, unfortunately. To them, maybe Conria was just like, alright, boom. Another speck of human history. Just another one.
So essentially, Celestia is described as this, I suppose, in your words, universal constant, and I suppose kind of the modus operandi of Celestia is anything that threatens a change of that constant is met with retaliation or quote unquote, readjustment back to that constant?
Readjustment, like how?
I'm just saying in a general sense because I'm assuming if Celestia is a constant, then it kind of has a desire for things to remain constant in a sense, or granted its whatever authority Celestia possesses, right? So, you've mentioned before, Celestia has the power to wipe out civilizations, if I'm not mistaken, and so that to me kind of says, well, at some point that had to happen, but why? You know, that's kind of where I'm coming from in regards to this. I just wanted to pick your brain a bit in regards to that concept.
I think, wow, this is all just like massive theory building because I don't think we have any kind of idea what Celestia even is. Maybe, in a way, if you try to go against Celestia, maybe we'll start with like a very fundamentals. If you try to go against Celestia, boom, snap, you're gone. But another one was that eternity was like eternity, I think John Lee mentioned, is very close to the heavenly principles. Because I guess, yeah, if Celestia is a ruling figure for such a stretch of a constant figure, maybe that's one of the reasons why if you try to go against Celestia, you are trying to go against the fundamentals of the universe. There was something, I think, in the Prayers Artifact set that mentioned about human advancement. It's not that they're against human prosperity. No, they're far from it. They're not against human prosperity. That's it's just that they believe that everything is cyclical. Existence in Tevat, or at least in the planet that Tevat resides in, is most likely cyclical. And maybe it's just the way that how the foundational principles work. I think the key to understanding what Celestia's mindset is understanding what the heavenly principles even are. I think we've heard that a lot of times. Like, what are we are fighting the heavenly principles. We are against the heavenly principles. We're trying to topple the divine thrones. But what does that really mean? Like, what are those principles? Like, are they like the 10 commandments of Celestia that have been bestowed upon as a foundation of the world? I think that's the key on understanding on what does Celestia want to happen with humanity. If they're not against prosperity, if they're not going if the criteria for destruction isn't prosperity, then what is the limit of that prosperity in the first place is what I'm actually pretty curious about. So, yeah, I think that's the important thing that Genshin's narrative should tackle. What are the heavenly principles in the first place? Something like that. Yeah.
So now, the concept of eternity is actually something we explored in the previous patch, right? And I think it got quite a nice resolution, and we got to further explore the concept of eternity as told through A and Makoto's understanding of it, the concept. Now, after hearing out what Makoto had to say in regards to eternity, do you think that there's any conflict in regards to what Zhongli said for the heavenly principles? Is someone wrong in this sense, or is it about very specific factors of eternity where they're still kind of in line with how they both perceive eternity?
I think it's a weird concept to think about. Eternity is, I guess, it's really difficult to comprehend. from a narrative standpoint, because maybe in the perception of Celestia, humans aren't meant to be eternal, but their rule is, because maybe they share the same mindset as A, that they know better, or maybe they just have access to like a wider range of possibilities, that their perception is the heavenly principles are just because it keeps the existence of humans alive. Humans not individually, but as a collective. And if someone were to test the heavenly principles, then meet divine retribution, because you are basically going against the fundamentals of the world around you. And I think that's also what happened in the Before Sun and Moon. There was a second throne that actually came to Tevat. Fanis challenged, Fanis and that throne fought, but the throne lost. And maybe that's basically it. Maybe they know more, I guess. But is anyone wrong? I don't think so. From the perspective of humanity, stagnancy is not worth it. Like, if I remember, several people also say that the god is trying, A is trying to go for eternity, because she knows that there is hardship there's hardship. So stagnancy is the best way to prevent hardship in the first place. But humanity doesn't understand that concept, because humans are meant to change. We're meant to grow, we're meant to make mistakes, we're meant to learn. We cannot be stagnant because our lives are too short to wait. It can't be a waste of time doing absolutely nothing or being stagnant. So from both perspectives of humanity and maybe Celestia, neither of them are technically wrong, but at the same time, neither of them could be objectively right. Maybe humans are just so short-lived that we don't understand the grander scheme of the universe, or Celestia is just not understanding that they created sentient beings that want to experience life rather than just exist. So there, I guess that's up to interpretation, I guess, from us personally.
It makes a lot of sense actually, because essentially, when you look at from our perspective, really, because, and I suppose the humans in Tevat do share similar life expectancies and lifespans as we do, give or take, right? So we can only perceive from how long we can live, but in contrast to that, the archons, or the beings that live way longer than humanity, their perception of time itself has become, somewhat, I suppose, dulled. So they the days or the years that pass by mean essentially nothing to them. So that's kind of where their prime focus is shifted. So yeah, I definitely understand from that perspective actually. So I have some pretty interesting insight. Now there's something that we previously mentioned in regards to Conria, and that was Enkonomiya, if I'm not mistaken. So
Oh yeah.
have you found, so what are the parallels that you've found between the two?
Well, now that we have a second civilization, I think in the chasm, and then you have the architecture from Enkonomiya, and Dainsleif basically says that yeah, Conria also kind of looks. Maybe they do just share the same design and architecture. That's one. Another is that they existed in the same time period, I guess. Because if I remember correctly, there was before Enjo decided that he wanted to try looking for the book, Conry and Envoys already tried to look for the book Before Sun and Moon in Enkonomiya. So that's pretty interesting that maybe the underground civilizations are actually closer, more tight knit than more tight knit than what meets the eye. And Kanamiya, on the other hand, also was kind of run um in a very suspicious way before Orobashi. Let's just go with that. Before the Orobashi came, they had the Sun Children, where every like I guess like the higher ups of the adults would manipulate would manipulate the children and the people into believing that the Dainichi Mikoshi actually chose these children to lead them. As for parallels with Enkonomiya, maybe it works the same way with the Eclipse Dynasty. Maybe the dynasty is trying to what do you call this? Maybe the dynasty isn't actually like a powerful entity. Maybe it's using its inner politics to try and manipulate the people of Conria of some sorts. But the problem is like we don't know enough about Conria to begin with if we want to think about it that way. And Conria doesn't really have. I don't think there was ever any mention of Conria having a god canonically. Like there were theories, but I don't think I think that's why it was the pride of humanity because it was godless, while Enkonomiya had Orobashi to save them in a way. So it's fascinating that they know each other actually. So that's how. What about the other civilizations? Is my next question. That how many of the ancient civilizations actually coexisted with one another, and how much connections did they have with the surface world? Because Conria was underground, and Kanamiya was also underwater. So I wonder, do they mingle with the surface world dwellers, or with the people in Mondstadt, Liyue, and Inazuma, something like that, or or are they just like isolated? Are they just isolated? Yeah, that's mostly it. I'm pretty curious about that.
Well, what's your take on it?
If they know each other,
Mm-hmm.
or if they intermingle with like the surface dwellers. Mm, I think they do because like while Conrian technology was said to like the ruin guards were drifting away because they were um because of the after the cataclysm they were basically masterless. I think that some of the other ruin guards or some of the other ruin machines were purposefully implanted on Tevat. One of them, in my opinion, was the ruin serpent. Or probably like the other ruin machinations, the ruin defender, the basically all the other ruin entities. Because it says there on their bio that they were byproducts of abiogenesis, which is basically I think it was I think maybe it was like no, it wasn't abiogenesis. Um, I can't remember the name. It was like a really big scientific term where it gave the hint that Conrio was trying to mimic military benefits for each of the different ruin creatures, the ones that you found in Surumi Island. So maybe yes, some creatures were did find a way to leave the Conria after the cataclysm, but maybe some creatures were purposefully implanted in a way. Maybe Conria wanted to let's just say maybe they want to do more than mingle with Tevat, maybe.
I
Hopefully
see.
not.
So that's what you're I can kind of see what you're getting at. But good thing because we really need those chaos cores, don't we?
Oh yeah, true. How would be Asunder characters now? Damn Conrians.
Yeah. They left nothing for us. We would have nothing to ascend, which would be a shame. But yeah. So yeah, that's quite an interesting theory in regards to that. Now, when what well, let's talk about essentially what the future looks like, and this is how we'll get into it. So now that we're in 2.6, we've kind of played through everything. Of course, I think you still have to explore the chasm, and perhaps a few certain things. Actually, have you played the Ayato story yet?
Oh yeah, I've played the Ayato story.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and how'd you find it?
It was okay. I think it's like the standard quality of like the usual story quests where the it's kind of centered around the NPCs, which the playable character is mostly a supporting character that's just there to solve the problem. Something like that. I don't mind it. Ayato's cool.
All right, that's fair. That's fair enough. Yeah. So
Politics.
essentially nothing too exciting in regards to lore,
Woo,
really.
politics. Woo, families. Marriage. Wow.
Hey.
Yay.
That's pretty much that in a nutshell, really. onto Ayato Part 2, I suppose. So, yeah, because the other thing too that's happening at the moment is the is the good old festival, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Ah, yes, the festival.
Now, have you gotten around to playing to that?
I've done the first part with Suiko. But I haven't done the second part because I'm kind of waiting for tomorrow where they release the second part, the third part, I think. So yeah, I only know about the one where Venti got stopped by the feds. That's mostly. Animal Archon. No. Damn it.
It's quite an interesting thing. Now the thing is, admittedly I've yet to play it as of the recording of this, so I'm looking forward to that. It's fine. I came in fully prepared to be spoiled because such is the nature of this of these podcasts and how it goes. So don't worry about myself. I just know that for the Klee fans out there, they're in for a nice surprise.
DC touches grass.
Yeah, I wish I did. It's kind of hard to touch grass these days, truthfully.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a good thing I can talk about lore with all of you. That's as good as touching grass. We can talk about other people's grass.
The fictional grass.
Yeah, the fictional grass, which is definitely better than no grass to be mentioned upon. Yeah, So now, when we look because it seems like at this point, to 2.6 within itself, we kind of have a good understanding of where it's going at this point. So now 2.7, right? And this is the question I've been saving since the beginning of the podcast to get into the segment. What do you think are the Fadoi's plans for what may possibly occur in 2.7? Like, what are your predictions of the Fadoi's involvement?
Whatever the Fatui are trying to do, they're going to need to do it fast because some guy decided to abandon all the plans and steal the Gnosis for himself. So you are missing one Gnosis there. And if they need all 7 to create like that massive world-ending weapon, they're gonna need to grab the other guy that stole the Gnosis. So I think in 2.7, if Scaramouche hasn't gone back, okay. If Scaramouche hasn't gone back to the Fatui and decided that he doesn't want to play Sad Boy anymore, I think their priority should be to get Scaramouche in a way. Honestly, get the Electro-Gnosis because that was inadvertently the cause of probably Senora's death there, and they should double down on that, those attempts. So maybe in 2.7 we won't see them. Maybe it's a little bit kind of farther. Maybe in maybe I'm thinking maybe Sumeru is when they introduce the next Harbinger, or we get a Tartaglia rerun, which I hope you guys are excited for that.
Tartaglia
rerun where he comes back to Inazuma trying to look for the guy. Oh no.
Oh boy. So I think this is a good point to ask you: who's your favorite Harbinger, and why is it Scaramouche?
Alright, so before that, I'll actually talk about my second favorite Harbinger. Before we go into
Okay. All right. So we'll go with that. Who's your second favorite?
I think Pantalone is like pretty chill. Like he's just there for the money, you know? I think like everyone's like, oh, I want to defeat God. I'm a puppet and I don't have a heart. And he's just like, I want to get rich. I want to get money. And you know, that's pretty neat. I think that's a very human thing to just want money. I kind of want to meet him because I think he's like probably really important in keeping the Fatui afloat. Just as a superpower. If he disappears, I can probably guarantee you that the Torre won't get the funding. The Fatui would probably stop getting like the funding or stuff like that. So if the traveler wants to attack a certain harbinger, I would just say like go for the higher ups, go for Pantalone, go for the Torre, go for Pierrot, or maybe like yeah, I feel like that would be the best one. Now, why is it Scaramouche? I like his bowl cut. Like, okay, I think
like
it was
your
the
cut,
bowl
Chief.
cut at first. I'm gonna start slow here. Gonna list everything down, huh? His bowl cut. I think I've always had a liking for characters that have symmetrical designs, so I think that's like one of them. I also like I think I've also like I really liked him even before the puppet reveal, but I like the motif of artificial humans. In like what about the gigantic cat? Oh yeah, the gigantic cat was like I think that's really stood him out, honestly. The kid you did not. Chat's having a wild fiesta down there, huh? I like the motif of I guess I personally share this philosophy that humans are fascinating. Our emotions are what makes us interesting. So I guess like that's one of my favorite mentalities, I guess. He's an interesting little guy. Also, I like the song Bohemian Rhapsody, so that's mostly it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. There it is. Fandango Tales patch 2.7. Let's go.
He's coming back.
So
that was such a beautiful.
But what do we know about Scaramouche so far? So we know that we found out that he was created as a puppet, right? And it kind of answers the whole sort of, or it adds to the lore of what a homunculus in the world of Teyvat is, or how you can kind of define it, because like you references the Raiden Shogun as a puppet of some sorts, but the way we perceive puppets is like, all right, there's some there's some sort of mechanics involved, or mechanical moving parts, but we look at Shogun and you're like, well, looks as good as human to me, or whatever.
Good enough.
A was trying to build around. So, we kind of know that, because one of the questions I'm thinking of, is there a difference between a homunculus in regards to what Albedo perceives it, and a puppet in regards to how A perceives it?
I think Scaramouche was a mistake because A.
let's stop there.
That was not the word. I felt like
let's okay. I understand. Okay, let's end it there. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Keep going.
But I think it was just A's perception of what she wanted to create. Because, like, you're right, she wanted to put the gnosis. But I don't think there's actually much of a difference. Maybe it's just, like, the perception of Ryan daughter versus A when they were creating them. A wanted... Essentially, now that I think about it, Albedo, if they swapped, maybe Albedo would have been the better the better Trido Shogun puppet. Oh god, that's not what I meant to say. But A wanted something that like had little to no emotions. I think that was like one of the reasons that she left him in the first place was because he shed tears in his sleep. So, but honestly, just fundamentally, there really just isn't a lot of difference between them. Really, a homunculus, simulacrum, puppet. Maybe they're just like all kinds of different aspects of artificial humanity. So the question then becomes like, how do you define humanity? Emotions, flaws, something like that. So yeah, I don't think they're that different. Maybe Scaramouche and subject 2 would be pretty good friends. Honestly, that'd be pretty cool. Scared the blood top.
Yeah, I suppose, chat's going like, oh, Albedo's the better mistake, but you did mention that, they wanted it to be emotionless. I'm looking at Albedo, I'm like, can't really see much emotion in there. Okay, please don't cancel me, Albedo fans. I did not. That was just my observation of the whole thing. In regards,
I like him a lot. I think it's one of my favorite. I feel like we should have swapped.
okay.
They should have swapped.
Well, okay. So in Aster's ideal world, Albedo is A's creation, and Ryan Daughter's creation was Scara. That's what I'm getting. Essentially, but okay,
Ryan
so
Daughter would have treated him better. I know.
Oh,
No.
Oh no.
She wouldn't have.
But
No, she wouldn't have.
No, I don't think so either. But so we can kind of look at that. So we know that A wanted, as you said before, an emotionless sort of quote unquote puppet, and you remarked that he cried in his sleep. Do you know more about that? Specific incident.
I think it was because she tried to put the gnosis inside of him. And that's my theory, at least, like just how it was written. Maybe it just wasn't like it was too much for him. Maybe, or he just cried in his sleep. They'll be all do this. Oh God, I cannot dare. So I don't need sleep. I need to.
It's okay.
Think...
It's the exact same thing I will be doing after this podcast, so you're safe.
Like I don't know anything about Sky. We're just crying in his sleep, but yeah, maybe the emotions of the gnosis were too much for him. That's why he wasn't. He was just a prototype. But that's I think that's it.
I see. It's interesting though, because to me it just opens more questions. Like, then why does he want the gnosis? If it was like too much for him, is he trying to prove a point? Maybe like it's like, I'm not a mistake, and Traveler comes and says, yes you are. Shut up, you're a weekly boss now.
Die.
But again, guess is as good as mine. So, do you are there any popular theories as why Scara wants the gnosis, or why you just decided to disappear?
Oh, I had a horrible war flashback to that one time I made a video about him eating the gnosis. No.
Well, let's talk about that.
Anyway.
What? If you don't mind, anyways.
All right. I think I could still remember that. I think that still haunts me. But so I decided that, you know what? Maybe maybe he should eat the gnosis to gain its power. How are you supposed to put the gnosis inside? Because that was the first question in my head. How do the Archons put the gnosis inside of them? They put it in their chest. So I was thinking, would he know that? Maybe he would. But then a part of me was just like, what if he eats it? So I made a video on the time of Shiki Taisho's event, and there were a lot of hints about consuming things for power. And one of the funniest quote unquote evidences that I found of Scaramouche eats the Gnosis was Beelzebul, his creator, is actually also known as the demon of gluttony. And I think I just lost it at that point laughing. But yes, that's basically how the theory goes. Now, for a more serious note, maybe he just he says he wants a heart. Maybe he just wants to feel. Maybe he just wants to feel. I don't know what good that does. Maybe he just wants power too, honestly. Maybe he just wants to feel. But I guess at this point, like, it's most likely to prove a point. Because he was, like, the Surpassing Cup does say that, surpassing. And I think he feels inferior. If the Surpassing Cup was written from Scaramouche's perspective, I feel like he feels inferior to what A thought that he could be. So maybe getting the Gnosis and proving to her that he isn't, that the current him is not weak for this. For using the Gnosis's power. Maybe that's why he wants it. Maybe that's why, like, the moment that Yai Miko showed it to him, maybe Yai actually convinced him. Like, we never got to know what Yai actually told the guy. All we know is that she gave him the Gnosis. And, what if Yai convinced him that, like, give me the Traveler, and I can give you everything that you were supposed to be. Something like that, I would say. So, that's interesting. Don't care, dude.
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, it we kind of pass out like out midway when we kind of see Yai, and you're like, well, time to fade to black, and then we wake up and we're under the Sakura tree, and we're like, yep, that just happened. We just got KO'd real bad, and we lost a Gnosis. End of story. But what do you think happened?
Yeah.
Actually, well, yeah. Is that actually what you think happened? Is like I kind of like explain the whole thing, or do you kind of have a more proper theory of your own as to what happened when we passed out?
Honestly, I think the best person to ask this is Paimon, because Paimon was awake and conscious, right?
For sure.
So, as for what happened, I actually don't know. Honestly, like, if Scaramouche was so powerful, why didn't he just fight Yai Miko right there and then? If Yai says that she can't take Scaramouche, what was stopping him from, like, taking the Gnosis, using it, and then killing most of us there? So maybe Yai was able to convince him that your ego is not enough for the Fatui, and you can probably surpass them, just like how you surpassed A, something like that. And then Scaramouche got Scaramouche decided that, yeah, this is my destiny. I want the power of the Electro Archon, and then he used it for himself. The question then is, how much of the Electro Archon's power is actually in the Gnosis? What if it's actually just like a telephone straight to Celestia, and the reason he's gone is that Celestia called him in for questioning for using the Electro Archon's Gnosis? Oh no, he's gone.
Oh dear. So, kind of a side question, nothing to do with Lord. Does it actually not sit well with you when someone refers to A as Baal, even though it's kind of confirmed now that the jig is up, the story is out that she's Beelzebub? Not
I don't really
Baal.
mind. I just think that Baal is easier to say. I just call her A, but like, yeah, I don't really have anything. Like, I know that it's not Baal, so it's fine. I mean, in my opinion, A means egg in German.
Okay, so it's just me.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, it pisses me off. I'm furious. It's
I can see that though. Yeah,
Yeah,
Makoto does
it's an
not
abs.
deserve such disrespect.
Yeah, she's my waifu. You get her name right, you know,
That's true.
or
That's true.
else there's going to be trouble. I'm going to personally do something about this. But yeah, no, to me it's like it's just like, yeah, when someone's talking about AI, I kind of understand that. I'm just curious because I've noticed, right, that people have gotten used to it over time because that was the original prediction that essentially when they found out they meant, a lot of mention of Baal uh, and Raiden Shogun perhaps being the same person, and then when we later found out, people just kept still saying Ball and Ball. So I was kind of wondering, is this something that that people are kind of nitpicky about, or is it something that's kind of like, okay, context based? I know exactly what you're talking about. Drives me nuts though, personally. So
Everyone just wants to use Ball. Yeah.
I mean, look, fair enough. Just don't use it in front of me. But
These two will hurt you.
so
Huck you down.
so now I'm gonna ask you, what to you personally. Now I'm gonna ask you this from two perspectives. What makes Scaramouche such an interesting character in your eyes? Now I'm gonna ask you first, lore wise, if any, actually, if there's any sort of a reason that you can tie it to lore, or specifically, the progression of the story itself. I'll ask you
I
about
think.
aesthetics later.
Yeah, thanks. I think. For me, his execution is very interesting because if you think about it, he has the same amount of content and exposure, like just quantifyingly, as Senora. But Senora, the way that they delivered Senora's lore was much more, they put the Crimson Witch of Flames, like the artifact set, and then they put it away, and then they stopped, talking about Senora other than the Archon Quest. But for Scaramouche, he was like, one patch you get a mention, another patch you get the husk, and another patch you're building up to his character, like he's an actual recurring story, which is pretty interesting. As for lore, um I think it's just the general feel of him that I find fascinating, that um I guess I his lore about how he perceives humans is an interesting concept, because most of the time we don't really get that kind of perspective from the archons themselves. Like, we don't have like an actual viewpoint of the archons on how they see the more negative aspects of humanity, because they are, immortal beings. So Scaramouche kind of gives an eye on that, like, what does it actually mean for an immortal to see how humans, immortal, quote unquote, like, how do immortals really see humanity's emotions, the concept of emotions? How does something that's, well, inhuman even begin to fathom humanity? So I think that was one of the most fascinating aspects to me. And yeah, that's mostly it. The just the genuine feel of, like, how bored he is, or by how interested he is in humans, is really, really fascinating, I guess. Just from a perspective of so many gods and adepti and kitsune that kind of bother a lot. That some don't really bother. Oh, some don't really bother with humanity. Some are very intermingling with humanity, and some just like to laugh at humanity. Yeah, amigo. Something
Ah,
like that.
yes. So, what do you think Scaramouche meant by saying the sky is fake news? Well, that's not what he said, but that's
Oh.
kind of what he was implying.
One is, I think that the traveler knows, like, what's up there. So, I feel like when he revealed that, the traveler was just like, huh, interesting. Anyway, another one was when he was implying that, I think, for me personally, maybe the sky is a physical barrier. If you've ever watched the Truman Show, I think they also tackled, like, I think they had like a sky dome where if you go to a certain point of the sky, you touch it, it's physical. So maybe that's what that was. Maybe that's what he's talking about. So the question is that Mona actually kind of goes with that. Like, a lot of people say that Mona was quick. Mona doesn't believe him, but Mona actually kind of confirms that that's not like, he's not lying. That even in her divination, she was taught to always, consider the possibility of the fake sky. And I honestly think that the fake sky concept is meant to shield the planet of Tivat, not just the continent Tivat, but the planet of Tivat from extraterrestrial forces. Maybe they don't want humanity to see beyond the fake sky. Maybe they don't want things to come from other places, like how the Second Throne came to the world, how the Outlanders are now able to do interstellar travel, and why they were punished in the first place for trying to leave Tivat or trying to enter Tivat. I'm actually kind of interested about that. Why were they stopped in the first place for trying to leave Tivat? Like, honestly, why did the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles decide to jail them in Tivat in the first place? Or maybe it was an intention to kill. So the fake sky in and of itself, some people were saying firmament, like the fake sky above it is water. That's actually a really good theory in my opinion. So you have the underground cities, you have Tivat or the surface world, then you have the fake sky, you have the firmament layer over that, and then maybe you have something like another civil or another world or realm up there. Maybe it's Celestia, and then it's the real sky, something like that. We wouldn't really know. We don't really have any much information about the fake sky. But I think another one was, so if the sky is fake, what are the constellations? Like, I think that the sky being fake is important so that people don't see their constellations. Like, only certain people that can do their skills on reading constellations could read the constellations in the first place. Because if Scaramouche says that the sky is fake and the stars are a lie, that means that the star patterns on the sky are just, well, they're not really anything. What do you call this? They're just like, they're probably just equivalent to fairy lights, but they don't have the significance of actual constellations. So, one of them was also that, oh, sorry, I'm reading the chat right now. They're just posting a lot of theories.
Sorry, that was
what
me.
If the fake sky above?
Yeah, because I remember. Sorry to kind of to re-divert your attention, because I remember just seeing that graphic over here. Someone actually entertained the fake sky theory, it's less about the PNG, because I think someone confirmed that when they were constructing the skybox for the everything, the Celestia itself is kind of like a flat 2D asset. But I was more interested in kind of the graph that they did, and this one's by Kennelly. Again, I don't know how much authority or perhaps validity this holds, but I think that I just happened to see this picture of. So I just thought it was interesting to share, the one with the Tevat Celestia centric theory, which is like there's Celestia, and Tevat itself is actually kind of a little 3D halo, if you think about it. For those of you who don't know
God,
Halo,
yeah.
a ring world, but this is like a sphere world. That's
What
the
do you call
that
this? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
yeah. So the Teyvat Celestia centric theory, which suggests that Celestia is actually in the center, of everything, and Teyvat just literally surrounds Celestia, and there's that outer layer, which I actually I don't know if this is true.
Oh.
It just looked. I just remember seeing that theory, and I was like, oh, I found it right there. So it just reminded me of that when we were having this conversation. So I apologize for diverting your attention for a bit.
Oh, no problem though. But that's interesting. I wonder how much Celestia is going to change once they remove that JPEG. Huh. I'll see
Well,
you
I
in
think
4 years, I guess.
let's just hope technology and RAM gets cheaper by then. I'll put it that way.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I hope you guys are
Because
okay with storage.
Yeah, because our teapot can barely handle anything at this point. So still some ways to go, but they're doing some maintenance on it, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. My friendship points are slowly dying every day, but it's chill, it's cool. So okay, cool. So we have that theory in regards to the fake sky. Do you think it will ever now actually maybe perhaps I've missed it, but was this ever mentioned, this sort of theory or hints to this theory ever mentioned again from that point onwards? And if not, do you think it'll be mentioned
Actually,
again?
actually, I don't think we've had any drops from Celestia for a while, like a really, really long while. It's always been Conria or Fatui, but there hasn't been any much of a world building lore right now, except for the civilizations. But yeah, maybe it will be mentioned soon. That'll be cool.
Yeah, for sure. Or perhaps we'll just never find out. Maybe that's as soon as they drop it, the game ends, and the guy, there's no gotcha. Yep. So there's essentially that. Oh yes, I actually forgot. That's a good point, chat. We do find out there's there's a sky frost nail in the chasm as well as that, and we kind of draw that parallel between dragon spine and the chasm, and they kind of actually did mention that. Did you have any theories about that? By the way, like about yourself, and did you find out anything new?
What I want to know is how did the Skyfrost nail get underground? Honestly, with Dragon Spine, it's just basic gravity. But for the chasm, did they punch through the upper layer of the chasm first, and then boom, or did it teleport there? Is what I'm actually pretty curious about. So as for the Skyfrost nail, unfortunately, yeah, it was most likely what caused the extinction of that civilization. Um, yeah, I think that's most it. As for, I feel like we'll just see more of it. That means that Celestia's biggest form of weaponry is um nails. I don't know.
A big giant
Collision. There
nail
you
in
go.
the sky.
Big giant nails. Collisions. I think I think the Skyfrost nail itself, a lot of people are used to speculate that the dragon spine, like Celestia was dying because of the dragon spine nail, but now that we have this, that kind of debunks that theory that Celestia was dying and that the Skyfrost nail was an accident, it just fell. Now we see it's kind of more deliberate that maybe they are targeting certain, well, ancient civilizations probably had something to do with that. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's
The thing is,
absolutely. So now that we've kind of explored a little bit of Scaramouche's background in regards to lore, Now, I'd like to ask the question coming from a very aesthetic sense in regards to Scaramouche. So, you know, what about Scaramouche do you enjoy about? I suppose the character design, or perhaps even the name being Scaramouche, and you immediately went, oh my gosh, Bohemian Rhapsody Queen.
I think one of the funniest parts about his design, plus like the lore relationship, I think was what do you call this? The lore always just says he's pretty. Like the lore, the first time he was ever introduced, the intro was like handsome face, and then you get the surpassing cup, like handsome face as well, and then Husk of Apple and Dreams was he was pretty. So, and what's funny was that his I think okay. Stop me if you've heard this one, but I think the most impactful scene that was ever in the earlier stages of Genshin was the "Are you deaf or are you stupid?" line. And I don't think there was ever any other scene that could encapsulate such pettiness, anger, and I think like at the time we have just never seen like a character like turn around, look at someone dead in the eye, and just say, "Shut up," with such unnecessary spite. I think that was like one of the things that I swear most of the facial animations budget is probably going to this guy. Like, he's probably going to it's just going to his like animations. I don't doubt that. They call him pretty. They don't lie. All the budget's going to him in terms of his face. But yeah. And the hat.
All the
I like his hat.
So yeah, so have you actually looked into essentially the perhaps because like we can a lot of predictions really are based on for Mihoyo anyways are based on the references that Mihoyo draws from other lore that we see in the real world. So when you look at someone like Scaramouche, what are we supposed to think? Like, cause the first thing that comes to my mind is what came to yours. Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, are we gonna see Freddie Mercury, or are we gonna get a live at Wembley concert over in Inazuma? So what do you think that kind of implies there?
I think one of the funniest parts of Genshin's like history pre-Inazuma was the bowl cut, the little strand he had on his back. When they saw with A, all the theories kind of just pounced on Scaramouche is the Electro Archon's son, something like that. And everyone else was just like, no, you're stupid. You're just like over analyzing. And then here we are. But as for our actual cultural well, here we are. Welcome to the future, guys. He is in fact the son of the Electro Archon. But in terms of references, I think I'm not really like I haven't really went too deep, but I know that the mask on his head is a theater mask. I can't remember if it was kabuki. All I know is it was a theatrical mask, which goes really well with his own personal liking of theaters. And another one is that the veils on his back was on his hat. I don't think it was like the veils were for ceremonial veils for I don't remember what it's called in actual Japanese terms, but that's what that was. Plus the kasa for the hat, which kind of resembles his wanderer's hat from the Husk of Apple, which is pretty nice. Though I'll be honest with you, the Electro symbol was a very dead giveaway. That we'll see this man in Inazuma. Yeah, no, this is Electro Archon's son, probably the Electro Archon himself. Yeah, no, we'll see him soon. It's fine. The mask on his hat. I think that's what that was. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish that thought.
No. Go ahead. Oh, I'm done.
So, from my understanding of things, the origin or the name of Scaramouche, is although we hear it in Bohemian Rhapsody, and now people have seen the movie, or I hope you've seen the movie, or you've heard Bohemian Rhapsody, everyone's like, oh yeah, Scaramouche. But when you go back to essentially, who is or what is Scaramouche in relation to, it all, funnily enough, it all goes back to the clown again, or the concept of a clown.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and he is a big clown.
yeah, so my question is, or perhaps kind of picking your brain again in regards to your theories, does he, in a way, bear any sort of similar or kind of like themes that Pierrot might share? Is there any connection at all? Because they're both kind of, both names are associated with clowns, and it's one's obviously in a sense after the Joker from the DC universe, because of that, the Killing Joke reference and everything. But we haven't really seen much mentions or perhaps themes of clowns, maybe except the big hat. I don't know, but again, I've never seen a big hat on a clown, or rarely. Do you think that it's an element that is going to manifest itself at a crucial moment, or do you think that it's kind of a name that was picked just because it sounded so, I don't know, otherworldly? Or maybe the Mihoyo dev just listened to Bohemian Rhapsody one day, pitched it at a meeting, and everyone was like, all right, sounds good.
So actually, Scaramouche comes from the word scaramuccia, which is from the Commedia dell'arte. Actually, all of the 11 Harbingers come from the Commedia dell'arte. And I can guarantee right now that if you Google the word Scaramouche and then put, like, Commedia, like, the first guy, like, the guy is wearing full black with, like, a hat. And the Scaramuccia is basically based off of a very antagonistic stock character that is very rowdy in a sense, and well, he likes picking jokes on other characters in a way. The little skirmisher, that's what you call that. The little skirmisher is always the first one to leave any kind of conflict, interestingly enough. That's why most of the time he would pick a fight with someone in the play itself, and then he would just let either other people deal with it, or he leaves to basically not really care in a way. So, just going by that, I think they really based off a lot of Scaramouche's antagonistic personality from the actual Scaramuccia from the Commedia. As for with Pierrot, it's actually an interesting dynamic because the Pierrot, I think, was known as someone that was bullied by the other characters. Not really specifically just Scaramouche, also like Dottore, Pantalone, Colombina, other characters from the Commedia would basically pick on, he was the butt of the joke. Pierre was basically the butt of the joke. But in 1.1, we see that Scaramouche was the one that wasn't told by Pierrot that, like, Scaramouche complains that, why didn't the jester tell me this? Like, it gave me such a fright. Why would he, like, not warn me about what the meteors are? Something like that. So I think that dynamic is pretty interesting to see. That's not only just for Scaramouche, but also with the other Harbingers, where Pierrot instead has a more dominant role on the Commedia. As for Scaramouche, it's almost actually not really a parallel, but like the stereotypes have already been conveyed in his preliminary introduction in 1.1 and 2.1. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. That definitely makes sense. And for those who are unfamiliar, by the way, I just want to kind of explain to people, what is the Commedia dell'arte?
Ooh, we're going straight into the 16th century classical theaters. So basically, it was a form of theater that originated in Venice. It's basically multiple stock characters. And what it essentially is that each of the characters are hyperbolized, exaggerated, um people in society, and they kind of go together inside of a play, and they create an improvised kind of art. They start acting. No, there's not really a line, there's mostly just prompts. And these actors, some of them at least, most of them, are distinguished by their masks, which is why the Fatui have their masks. Some characters don't wear masks. Pierrot is one. The lovers are one of them. I can't pronounce that. Scaramouche is also another character that doesn't wear a mask. But that's basically it. So that's where the Fatui get their whole mask. That's where Fatui get their whole mask thing. On the gist, it's basically where most of the stereotypes that we have for modern media come from. In all honesty, that's where most of the stock characters from, well, popular media we get right now. The Genshin characters are just examples of that, but you have the Torre building up from the mad scientist, loud, smart guy kind of vibe, and you have Pantalone, which is like the greedy merchant, or you have La Senora, which is the femme fatale kind of physique, or you have Capitano, which was the very loud braggart that doesn't really amount to anything, or Tartaglia, the stutterer, or Pierrot, the sad clown, Arlecchino, the Harlequin. That's a very popular motif, something like that. So, it's basically just a really, really old form of Italian theater that's pretty interesting. That has perpetrated in modern theatrics as emphasized on locomotion, the lack of props, and mostly just it was a very, very big fundamental in creating stereotypes, quote unquote, something like that.
Now, when we think of masks, right, and we think of sort of the quote unquote, I'd say would you agree they're kind of like archetypes, almost like
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. So with that being, when we think of masks and we think of the archetype and comedy, one thing that I think about, or perhaps people might sort of allude to, is the masks of comedy and tragedy, said to originate back, during I think it was the 13th century with or I can't remember the exact dates, but probably not the 13th century, but during the prime time of the Greeks. So definitely not that. So do you see now, looking back at the elements that Mihoyo have in regards to people's stories and everything, and perhaps maybe specifically revolving around the Harbingers, do you see the notion of comedy and tragedy going hand in hand, or do you think that, or do you observe that they are polar opposites in regards to the storytelling?
Oh no, yeah. I think that the duality masks, I'll just call it that, the comedy tragedy, I think it's something that's very heavily that heavily influences the story of the Harbingers a lot, since they have the comedy is their exterior, I would suppose. Like if I were to interpret it a certain way, it would be the exterior that they have for the character, for the as a political figure, or as a powerful figure that laughs in the face of the heavenly principles or God. But the tragedy is their backstories. For Senora, it was the Crimson Witch. For Scaramouche, it was with A. For Tertalia, it hasn't happened yet, so that's interesting. For the Torah, it was getting uh, chased out of his hometown, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, so each of the characters do follow, well, their current status right now is built off of, I would say, a very painful experiences. Does that justify what they're doing right now? Then No, not really. No, it doesn't. Not whatsoever. Not the pain that they've caused, like, a lot of people. So yeah, I guess that's it mostly.
Why do you think people have like I guess an example in this chat have a strong distaste for Scaramouche? Is there now? I understand this is a controversial topic, so I'm going to do my best to navigate this. Right. So, is there anything from a specific lore or canonical perspective that you find could explain the distaste, or is it really all just a husbando waifu war sort of thing?
Kino just said that he's ugly, and Kino would be canonically incorrect. Oh my gosh, but he's
Well,
unlikable,
that
not
answers that
wrong.
question.
Ah, that's that question. But we moving on. Fucking ass. Wait, look at me. Oops.
I'm basically asking
Um.
you to defend him.
Oh no. I could give you a list of why he's not liked. Okay, so one is his personality. Nobody likes that kind of thing, and I guess one is his personality. I can see why. Mihoyo has the Genshin characters, the playable characters especially, are very. They're perfect, I would say. I think that's a very controversial argument, but we haven't seen them do anything bad. Like, we're hinted that there are bad, like, with the exception of maybe, like, some, like, Tartaglia A, I think would be a very good exception to that. But, like, some of them are, very idealistic. That's the word. They are idealistic. Um, as for him, I can see why people don't like him, because honestly, he's just unpleasant. Like, if I had to meet someone like that in real life, I would probably just walk away. He's honestly just very unpleasant. So a lot of people either like him because he's unpleasant, and some just don't like him because he's unpleasant. So that's mostly it, I guess. But if you call him ugly, you are canonically wrong. But
You can't
the lore will
argue
tell you
with
otherwise.
yeah, you can't argue with what's written in black and white apparently. So that's that. Well, it's interesting because like there's a few ways to think about it, right? One now this is really less about Genshin lore itself. It's more about how I suppose how people choose to sort of write their characters and their goals for that, because the way I see it is that okay, you have what is a perfect character, right? Perhaps a perfect character to some is some as a person or an idea of a person that ticks specific checkboxes, and they're like, all right, he or she's the one, I love them, period, right? And it's very, it's very how to put it, it's given to you on a silver platter. But the way I like to think about it is that, well, the reason you have that is because you have another element that counteracts that. So let's see how Scaramouche fits in. Well, if you talk about his unpleasant personality, the way I look at it is it acts as a counterweight to where you get the pleasantness from. So you have that idea because he's there to call you all dumbasses, right? And I suppose that within itself is a role. Now, whether that role is perfect, well, it really depends on how you perceive it. If you look at it as, all right, Scaramouche exists within the story as the unpleasantness to counteract the goodness or the perfectness of other characters, let's say, then maybe that is in fact a perfect role for him, or he is indeed the perfect character in that sense. Or the other thing that way I perceive it is that the characters themselves are never meant to be perceived as perfect, but all they're there to do is basically they're there to really get a reaction out of whoever's observing the story, right? So, say for example, when we watch a movie and you see this one character, he's a real asshole. You really hate them. They suck. Like they're the worst. And then you step out of the theater and you're like, holy crap, that actor's great. It's like you
Yeah,
had to
true.
be you have to be you have to be someone really skilled in order to be perceived as an asshole and to have everybody hate him. So that's kind of how I see it. It's like, is he perfect within? Is he a perfect character within the confines of what exactly is perfection within that universe? Maybe not, but perfection in regards to how the story is meant to be told to us, and how he is in regards to the plot, and how we are supposed to perceive perfection and imperfection. Maybe is the perfect role. So that's how I kind of see it. Do you kind of see where I'm coming from? Do you kind of like
Yeah,
agree or
yeah, yeah.
disagree in regards to this?
Oh yeah, I agree. It's just going to have to like be a case of the perceptions of the people around him at that point, like in terms of story. Yeah, I think that would be a great way to flesh out that character.
Yeah, it's funny because I've actually had this debate before with people, because like it's more, well, it's funny because I like to throw that question out because it almost catches them off guard in a sense, because they're like, oh, I hate that character, and I'm like, but is the notion that you hate that character an indicator of the author's success? And they're just like, shit. You don't know, right? Because maybe the author wants you to hate him.
It's like a Draco Malfoy character, honestly. I guess
Yeah,
in a
but
way.
that backfired because of the fandom. Yes, same with how
Yeah,
this backfired because of the fandom within itself.
it's it's a okay. I think the best way to deal with a character like Scaramouche is if the traveler themselves is like, dude, and then he like the traveler calls them out. You know what I mean? I think that's like one of the best ways, I guess, to deal with his character. If ever they reintroduce him into this story, where the traveler just goes, dude, please, I hate you, and then like an actual reaction to that. I think I think one of the reasons he's very liked in the first place was because he was so different. Like, you don't usually get a lot of characters that are openly spiteful. Like, he's such a sore thumb from the archetype of characters that we have for the playables, who are all relatively pleasant. So, to invoke another reaction from the traveler that isn't just, blind friendship or something like that, an actual genuine spite and building up from that, where I guess Scaramouche gets humbled if ever he was a playable character. He gets humbled by by the fact that the traveler is just so much stronger than him, most likely, or just greater than him. I guess I don't know. Sumeru, when if we meet him, that would just be such a interesting dynamic, in my opinion. That it would be such a sore thumb, um, compared to a lot of what do you call this, to a lot of the other interactions that we've had with all the other characters, because the reception that the traveler had with most of the other characters, maybe even Tartaglia, actually, now that I think about it, was they just kind of they were pretty much on good terms in a way, and they ended on good terms. Yeah, Tartaglia, again, was a good example of that. So if Mihoyo wants to do Scarra's arc properly, like um what do you call this? And they somehow have to make him be in the plot, then um then you're going to need to make him creative, because if they don't and he just, goes back, I think that's going to backfire for a lot of people. Like, because if he gets watered down to the point that he's so mellow, he stops being Scaramouche. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's just. I've seen a lot of people that say that he was going to be redeemed because, the Tore was a bigger factor, but I think that ruins his character in a way if he suddenly just becomes mellowed out without a proper reason. You know, Senora was hot. Kino is just a simple person. But yeah, that's mostly it. I think they have to be careful with a character like that, or they kill him. Honestly, not bad. If they kill him, I think a lot of people would be fine with that, except for the people that save for Scaramouche. I hope your bank accounts are okay.
So
You think the only reason?
basically, if you're listening, Mihoyo, this is a threat. if you screw this up, you're going to receive a lot of backlash from Aster or any like-minded people that have a strong that have high hopes for Scaramouche. I'll put it that way.
Hey, if they water him down without a proper, character development, another anime, yeah, this is gonna they ruined a potentially interesting character in my opinion, because not all, like, I guess, like, not everyone has to be goody two shoes in a way. Like, that's why people like Enjo, like Enjo is a good example of just people like not really, quote unquote good people. They're just like fun characters. That's fine.
I like how one person in chat's like, Scar gives lore, Enjo gives lore, and I'm like, fair enough. That's the bread and butter.
All right.
So
good for you guys. They give content, okay? They give content. Good.
That's true. That's very true. So speaking of content, I know that you have your own content as well. Do you, and I kind of want to ask, do you have anything that you could give us, for like a preview of if you have anything planned, or sort of like a hint as to what you'd like to talk about next, or maybe it really is just another rant video about how Scaramouche is everyone else is wrong.
Oh no, please no. I wanted to talk about Miss Hina. How do I explain this? So, I was wait, where are we gonna get the question answer to it? I made a response for a reason. I think one of the things that I was planning to do was study the art of Kimia, because I think that's a really big thing. And it came from a thought that Miss Hina could definitely be real, and Ito could meet Miss Hina. Yes, that's.
And who is Miss Hina for those who are unfamiliar?
No, not Goru. No. We are talking about the actual lady. It's the, I don't even know what to call her. Them, honestly. I can't even begin to describe what Miss Hina is. It's Goro. But
is it the cardboard cutout of that?
Yeah.
Everyone was saying that's Goro's mom.
Yeah. I heard those leaks. That's Goro's mom. I thought that was a playable character.
I was like, what happened? Like, I was,
oh, no.
I was saving. It's like, Sorry, go ahead.
So, I think the next video is gonna be about her. That's the motivation for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Because I want to know myself.
She can
it's
be
like
real.
It's like, I look through the drip marketing and then, save first, ask questions later. Just going like, I would now like to know what I'm saving for. That's really all it comes down to. It's like, I'm a very, very simple-minded person. In regards to that, I see drip, and if I like it, I'm saving. I don't ask about why I'm saving or what I'm saving for. Which is often the downfall, right? Because like I'm neither heavily a lore person, nor am I heavily a theory crafting person in regards to stats and meta and everything. So people will say, "Why did you roll for that?" And I'll just say, "I'm a simple person. If I like character, I save and I roll." So that's how it is. That's how it is with me. So awesome. So now we'd like to move on to the Q&A session that some of you have been patiently waiting for. So we're doing a bit of a half and half here. Some of you have asked us questions on Twitter using our special hashtag, and if you don't know that, you can ask questions through Twitter every time before we have our One More Cup of Coffee podcast, and we'll definitely entertain them. And so apologies for people that have waited, but that is the format. We give priorities to the guest to express what they want to say, and then we do Q&A, as with a lot of events actually. Yeah, a lot of events put their Q&A at the end. I don't think, to be honest, I don't think I could be at fault with that. I'm just following what other people do. So you're gonna have to look elsewhere for the fault in that. All right, so you will get an opportunity, by the way, to ask questions in chat as well. So if you did tweet or you didn't get an opportunity to tweet, I will definitely read that. But hold your questions until I've read out all the Twitter questions, if that's cool. Alrighty, let's see here. I have to open it up. Okay, cool. So at 589 account asks, since it's established that Bennett and Lisa are death flags, has it been established? Oh dear. How will this affect the game lore-wise, game-wise, and Razor? Will Razor get reworked or something? What are the chances?
Razor gets a special mention. That's cute. So for Bennett, like I think it was like it's not as established as the Lisa death flags, but they're both just theories. So hypothetically, if they were going to be killed, I don't think that anyone is going to get a rework, in my opinion. I think that if Lisa was going to die, yeah, it was going to be through a Sumer or Archon Quest, in my opinion. But other than that, I don't think that the playable aspects of them will change, because there seems to be a disconnect when it comes to the lore versus the actual playability of a character, play profile of a character. Like the voice lines aren't always reflective of what's happening in the event, something like that. So that's pretty. I don't think that Razor is going to get reworked. As for Bennett and Lisa's playability, I don't think that they're going to be touched. I think that they're just going to be canonically in the story, if ever they were to die, or anyone to die, honestly. They would just be dead in the present times. But at this, I don't think that Mihoyo would ever screw over people that actually wailed for Bennett and Lisa. So I don't think they'll be removed from the game entirely. So yeah, I think that they'll probably just let them be still playable, but dead in terms of the canon story.
Okay, fair enough. Mm-hmm. So next question is from at GBF Raid. Sharing one says, I don't remember where I found it anymore, but I read comments saying that the cliffs on the surface of the chasm that surrounds it, the hole you drop down into in the Stony Halls area, and the protruding spikes in the chasm nail area have rock designs that are reminiscent of the Sustainer's cube tentacles. I don't think the Ruined Serpent is the one responsible for the rocks to look like that. What have the lore chads of Genshin thought of? Does the Sustainer have something to do with it? Or another individual that shares the Sustainer's ability? I'm really curious about it. It looks so grand and incredible.
Ooh. I think... Yeah, honestly, I think that the one in the Skyfrost, the chasm snail, definitely looks a lot like how the Sustainer does her cube forms, like the tendrils. I'll call them tendrils. How they manifest, and I do think that they are connected, because first the Skyfrost snail was most likely from Celestia, given Dragonspine is the connection to that. Another one though is that maybe it was the sustainer that oversees the destruction of certain civilizations. For example, with Conria, and that means that she was probably responsible for the fall of Salvindignir, and that she was one responsible for the Skyfrost nail in the chasm. As for where you drop down into the hole, I'm actually not quite sure, but I did see like some of the jagged parts of it. But I guess I just didn't really pay attention to that one that much. But if that was the case, then yeah, it means that the sustainer of heavenly principles was the one that's policing most of the ancient civilizations, and that means that whatever the ancient civilizations did was against the heavenly principles, not just Conria. Maybe that's also what Salvindignir and the Chasm did. So that's pretty interesting. As for actual lore hints, we didn't really get much since we don't really have any more information about the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles besides the cutscene. So yeah, that's mostly it.
And just as a refresher, in case people forgot or maybe they don't know, when they refer to the Sustainer, who are they referring to? And like which, when they're talking about the tendrils that come out, where do we first see that?
It's in the opening cutscene. It's the white-haired hot lady. You can't miss her. A bigger Paimon.
I could never forget that. Awesome. So, next question is from @Pancakey. In the Travail trailer, I don't know if I'm reading this right, Dane mentions someone at the end of the trailer. My memory has all but faded completely, but I will always remember how much she too loved these flowers. Who do you think is the she? Is it Lumine or probably someone else?
I think it's Lumine, yeah. I mean, going by just like a lot of people were speculating that maybe they were talking about someone else, like Dane was talking about like another character entirely that we just never met. But I think this Archon Quest really solidified that the she in that trailer, given that Aether was the main character of that trailer, is Lumine. Yeah. Of that trailer.
Unfair. And of course, I'm gonna save the best of the Twitter questions for last. This is a question by 2Kino, which I'm gonna skip. Okay, next. Okay, now we're gonna. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna skip that. I'm just for people who are listening from YouTube. I'm just observing chat's reaction. 2Kino was just molding in all caps there. I just wanted to have that reaction. Thank you for that. So 2Kino asks, do you like apple juice or orange juice, or are you a based Four Seasons enjoyer?
I like Four Seasons. Please don't hurt me. I just think that Four Seasons has like a very distinct taste. I don't know, like I cannot explain why I like Four Seasons more than apple juice. But I like.
So what is Four Seasons? For people who may not know,
it's a drink. Yeah.
What flavor in particular?
Four Seasons. I like it more than apple.
Wait, so there's a distinct flavor just called Four Seasons.
There is.
Oh. What does Four Seasons taste like?
That's what 2Kino's been waiting for. Yeah, there's a flavor called Four Seasons. So it's pretty good. Yeah. It's pretty good.
Does it taste like Four Seasons? Like, if you sip of it, you're like, yep, that's a little bit of spring in there. I can taste that summer aftertaste, and that strong body of winter.
Like, how do I explain this? It's like, okay, think of the sweetness of mango juice, but then, it feels like you're combining several, fruits, I guess, to mimic that feeling of having multiple, seasons. But the taste of it is, if you've ever tried a banapple, It's a real fruit, I swear. If you've ever tried a banapple, it's that same sensation. I cannot explain the taste. You're gonna have to try it for yourself. I highly recommend it though. I highly recommend it. Banana apple. No. There's a fruit. There's a fruit. There's a fruit called a banapple. And
There's a
wait.
fruit called a banapple?
Wait,
Four
it was either
seasons.
banapple or it was mango. It was like a mixture of a mango or an apple. I can't remember which one. No. There's like a I can't remember if it was apple mango or it was a banana apple. It's just a weird fruit that's a combination of two of them. So you put the names together. It's weird. It's like I remember my mom brought me that, but yeah, if you find it somewhere, hopefully not in the black market, but you know.
For sure. Interesting. Oh, it's from Del Mon. Is it
Banana
Del
mango,
Monte?
there you go. Ren's right. Banana mango, there you go. It's a banana mango. If you've ever had that, it feels weird. It's a whole new different fruit. Yeah, look, it's a banana, but I cannot pronounce that. Bananango. It's a banana
Banango.
mango.
It's think of
Banango.
Fandango without the with the B and without the D in it. So
But
Banango.
it's an interesting feeling, I guess. So I guess it's the same vibe that you get if you drink Four Seasons. So yeah, I definitely recommend that you should to drink that. Like a Four Seasons shake is always pretty nice.
Okay, this is lore
I
I
was
didn't
not.
think we would get into. Yeah.
That.
You-
Sorry.
No, it was a great question and a great answer. I think a lot of people learned something today. Yeah, it's it's quite something. Now, before I get into the questions that from chat that people are free to ask, I actually have a very special question from someone by the name of Esperance, and
Ooh.
she asked, "Hi, Aster. As a Scarasimp, I've looked at his design a very normal number of times. Very normal number. I don't know what that
see.
number is, but you could probably tell me. I can't help but notice certain elements of his design that raise questions. For example, now, Esperance goes on to list a few points. I think we've covered some of it, so I'm gonna... And also, she has a lot of points, but I think I'm gonna try and, pick the points that weren't covered to save
Gotcha.
time. So the first thing she noticed is the purple and white braid thing across his shoulder seems to be pretty special.
Oh, yeah, that
it also
one.
it also shows up in Ito's design. Does this have some special Japanese cultural reference?
Oh, you know what the first thing that popped into my mind? Oh, it's the braid that connects to the fanny pack on his back.
He's got a fanny pack. It's official.
He's got a fanny pack on the shoulder. I'm not quite sure, but I feel like I've seen that specific braid. I'm not really well versed in Japanese attire per se, but I'm not sure where I've seen that, but I feel like it's a kind of I was gonna say talisman. That's not the word. It's a kind of lace. There you go. That's the word. Lace. I think that has been seen in several much more not really modernized, but less formal cultural aspects of it. For a part of me kind of thinks it reminds me of like the other braided things in Japanese culture, like the bell. I know that's completely wrong, but that's pretty interesting. So yeah, I think I'm not quite sure, but yeah, maybe Scaramouche is actually part of the Arataki Ito gang, you know?
Yeah, you could be right. And funnily enough, Esperance actually has a question about the little fanny pack. Just for fun, he has a cute little bag on his back. What do you think he keeps in it? My bet is on 500 Mora, the burden of existence, and maybe his brand new iPhone 13 Pro. Okay, goodbye.
Guys, it's clearly where he stashes the onikabatos to eat. SMH.
Is this a reference I'm
It's a little-
I'm not understanding that's like big within the Scara community? I don't know. 500 more, the burden of existence, and his brand new iPhone 13 Pro.
The 500 more and the burden of existence reminds me of Dane's Leaf. But the iPhone one is pretty new, so, you know.
Yeah, it's a brand new
I
iPhone
wouldn't doubt
13
that.
Pro. So what do you think's in his bag? What's in his bag? This is the new game show we just invented on One More Cup of Coffee. What's in Scaramouche's bag? Will we ever find out? Probably not. Doesn't stop us from guessing.
Like, he gets redesigned and the fanny pack's just gone. No. We lost this guy. Maybe it's his delusion, or just some ready to eat meals if he eats. My bet is just a bunch of onikabuto, I guess.
Just a bunch of onikabuto. That's a good one. It's kind of like Fantastic Beasts, like Tevat style. All right, so I think we've covered the other questions are in regards to his design, and she did mention the hair, and I think we did talk about that. So
Yeah.
But she remarks that it looked like it was cut off with a sword at some point. So do you have a take on that?
Oh yeah, that's true. So there was a good vine of it. I hope that you guys find it. I don't know where to find it, but it was a kid that had a braid, and then some other guy cut it off with like a pair of scissors, and the haircut looked exactly like Scaramouche. That's like, I guess that's what happens if you try to like cut off like a ponytail from the base of the neck. I don't know how he got the bowl cut though. That's unfortunate, but that's a. I think that's mostly it. The sword
Alright.
act of defiance. He had this Mulan moment.
Yeah, for sure. So now we'd like to open up Q&A for our listeners. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask Aster, or anything about, at this point, it's pretty apparent, anything about any questions about Scaramouche, you're more than welcome. But if you also have any other questions related to lore
Open the
itself,
floor to something else, guys.
yeah, absolutely. So we'll open the floor to some questions. And are we inviting Tukino to the podcast? That's my question. I don't know. I don't take care of the podcast queuing. So that's something for the people who actually do that. So MCAT asks,
He's
out
just
of
an Archon and the people.
out of current playable character stories, who do you think they did dirty, and how would you improve it?
Xiao was, like, his story quest, in my opinion, was done very dirty. I think, like, his story had so much potential, but they focused it on the NPC to the point that it's just the NPC's story quest and character development versus an actual Xiao event, in my opinion. I think that's, like, one of the things that... Because I think the concept of immortality was touched on Ganyu's, and I think it could have been, also reflected in Xiao's. And while it's fine that he was there in his character quest, it just really didn't feel like his... it was Xiao's, yeah. It just didn't feel like it was his, It was like, it wasn't his moment, it was some dude that had a mask like him. So I think like Xiao's story was very much done dirty, in my opinion. As for other stories that I think were done dirty, none that much that I would say like on a point. I just think like most of them do tend to focus on the NPCs a little bit too much. Other than that, like, it's honestly just the one that was oh yeah, Kokomi. Yeah, Kokomi was done dirty as heck. I think Kokomi was a little bit more, like, it didn't really showcase her tactical side, in my opinion, because like there was no actual looming problem. that needed her strategic wits to go through, because like it wasn't like Kujo-Sara was hostile already. It was negotiation terms. Plus, it wasn't like there was anything bigger that they wanted to cover with Kokomi. So yeah, I think Kokomi and Xiao. I think Kokomi and Xiao are, I think, should have been executed better in my opinion. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, that's fair enough too. I think that Kokomi was definitely done dirty. She was also done dirty in her animation too. I've a whole tangent about that, but I'm not gonna get into that. So
I wouldn't know. I lost Kokomi. Is she good? I like her. She looks pretty.
She does. All right. So Tukino asks, if you were to choose a character and move it to another region of your choice, who would it be and why?
What? If I were to choose?
If you were to choose a character, I suppose, like, from their natural living habitat, and move it to another region of your choice, so a different habitat, who would it be and why?
Oh, I'm going to assume that this also includes their inspirational clothes, like stuff like that, right? Like,
Sure.
yeah, let's go with that, because I think I have some that I actually want to see. For some reason, I would love to see I kind of want to move Venti to Inazuma for some reason. I don't know why, but maybe he'll enjoy the sake, but maybe he won't because there's no dandelion wine. Very sad. Another one I think was Beidou and Kazuha to Mondstadt. I kind of want to see them in Mondstadt's like attire in a way, and I feel like they would also appreciate, the land of freedom is, I think would be pretty cool. So that'd be pretty nice. If I were to move them, yeah, I guess that's mostly it. Beidou and Kazuha, and then Venti goes to the islands. But it won't be free. There's no
Oh.
place for you to steal from, huh?
Certified Endro Shrimp asks, what do you think Kaya is exactly? He is Enjo's bestie for sure. He gonna be a cryo-lector skull emoji. Yeah, what is Kaya? What is a Kaya?
Okay.
I know
What is
Kaya.
Kaya?
I know Kaya as a dessert. Well, not really a dessert, kind of like a spread.
Oh god.
That's for my Malaysian people listening.
Okay, so the Kaya Abyss Mage theory has been there for the conception of time. I like to believe that it's like one of the oldest and still theorized theories of Genshin Impact. And the more that I think about it, like at the time, right, everyone's like, dude, you're crazy. Why would dude, Kaya could be a descendant, but he's not an Abyss Mage. But the more that we get into it, and the fact that maybe some abyss creatures can change, people were just like, wait a minute. Oh no. Wait a minute. That's interesting. So, and for me personally, I just think Kaya is a dude that came to Mondstadt, was left behind in Mondstadt. That's different. And I think he just has a bigger plan, but not bigger plan, a bigger fate. Fate has something so much more in store for him where he needs to decide between his allegiance to his past or his allegiance to the people of Mondstadt that he grew up with. So something like that. That's something that I think. But for honesty, I don't think that Kaya's like anything. I don't think he's an abyss mage. Let's just go with that. Watch me be completely wrong in 3 years.
Fair enough. So Ryan asks, which future Archon are you most excited for and why?
The God of Justice is going to be so hot, I swear. I can tell you this right now. She's going to be hot. I can tell you that. Trust me, I'm a Mihoyo employee. I don't think I can
God
say
of
that, but
justice. You think they're gonna do the whole scales thing, like that, because that's usually associated with justice.
oh, that'll be cool. Yeah, the whole balance scale, something like that. That'd be neat. But I can see she's hot. I can already tell. Just me.
Yeah,
Just me.
it's just that it's like that moment when I was talking to Yaimiko at the end of A's story quest, and then you had the option to ask about the Archon in Sumeru, and then I saw the pronoun she, and I just took a deep sigh and looked at my wallet, and then I just kept on playing.
Heist.
Okay, this is where we're going with this. All right, let's see. So, gosh, I have to keep track of the questions here. So, V asks, how does Celestia even coronate an Archon? I don't know if that was a question
Whoa.
directed at you or but maybe just a general. How does Celestia coronate an Archon? I think this was answered. They're elected, or I suppose they're asking more on the procedure.
I actually want to know where it says they're elected, because I've been hearing that a lot. And it would be really
We
funny if Zhongli was re-elected as the Archon.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, from what Clem said last time, it was the whole kind of like Hunger Games sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's how
That's the Hunger
they
Games.
that's in a sense that's how they're kind of placed or quote unquote elected, and so if I'm not mistaken, so it's by making them kill each other. So that's that. I guess that's really how you go about it.
Not
Just
wrong, but
so
I
I,
think I can't even. I don't even know actually, because isn't Venti, Zhongli, and technically A like the only ones from the Archon Quest? I say technically for A because technically she also sacrificed herself, I think. But I think the first part was the Hunger Games, and then the next part was, I guess it's just a passage of power, in my opinion. Honestly, was there an elections? I actually don't know if there was an actual elections ever mentioned.
no, I don't think Celestia will give that opportunity, or probably doesn't feel like it.
Honestly, yeah,
So
that's why I'm still. Uh huh. Mm-hmm.
no, I was just reading how Ryan asked, how does one become an Archon? Simple, just kill the other one.
Oh yeah.
That's how it's done.
Honestly, guys, we're all we're complicating this. Just kill them.
Easy. Steal,
Easy.
get the Gnosis. Just give Celestia a
Yeah.
call and be like, "Yeah, I'm the new Archon now," and they'll be like, "Okay."
It's not my Scarabus is gone. No. It's a Electro Archon by default. No. He's not dead yet. He's not dead yet. Ow.
Okay, so we have another pretty interesting question from Takino. Do you think Genshin would be able to integrate collaborations with other franchises into the main lore, or do you think that collaboration should be completely separated from lore at all? So I'm assuming they're kind of like it goes in reference to the Honkai, sort of collaboration as well.
Right.
And I guess also the God, what's her name? Cryo PS5
Aloy?
character. Yeah, Aloy.
Yeah.
They're not really mentioned at all. They're not even. I guess from my perspective, I guess they're just keeping it separate because Aloy is just there. They don't even explain Aloy.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think the closest that they're going to do is Alice. Like, I think Alice is the best bridge when it comes to lore. But I think if it's Honkai, then yeah, they will definitely probably do a reference to each other in terms of just world building and universes. I think that's
Yeah.
mostly it.
Well, I guess they're kind of setting up I know that in Honkai's universe they're setting it up to be connected, but I don't know if they are gonna have plans to sort of reciprocate that connection on Genshin's side. It'd be wild. I don't know how it would work. To be honest, do you have any idea?
I have no idea how Honkai goes, so like maybe it's for me. Maybe it's just like the world building. Maybe it's. I think the travelers are the best like linchpins for that kind of storyline. But other than that, I don't have an idea.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna butcher this name, and I'm so sorry. I hope you're okay with me just calling you Ten. Ten asks, where in Teyvat do you want to live?
Launch. Liyue, I think, would be a much better place because I don't think I'm ready for the claustrophobia that is a walled city. So yeah, Liyue.
Okay. And asks, Aster, what do you think of Loom of Fate operation could be about?
This one, yeah, it's fascinating. So for context, the Loom of Fate was mentioned by Dane, right? The Loom of Fate operations was mentioned by Dane as being the ultimate plan. There's actually a category in the Traveler's profile that says about the Loom of Fate. So that's pretty interesting. Maybe it's about, well, there was a loom is basically a machine that's integrated with the weaving, and in the Tevat trailer, Dane actually says that the traveler has the ability to reweave fate. So maybe it's intertwined with how the travelers maybe are able to reweave fate by maybe the constellations, maybe the stars, maybe whatnot. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, maybe that's what the Loom of Fate is. Maybe it's just trying to alter the situation at the moment.
Okay. So we okay, we got one more question here, and it's very specific. It's from V. They ask, Aster, who do you think is KK from the 13 Flame Chasers? And there's a picture of 13 Flame Chasers from Honkai. Because I recognize one character in there, and I think is that Mobius?
Yeah, the only one I know there's Mobius, but guys, KK is obviously Kadehara Kazuha. Oh my gosh. There it is. Simple. My god. Uh isn't it Kiana? Right? Yeah, obviously like Kadehara Kazuha knows about the stars and everything. Guys, that's simple.
It isn't KK. How am I supposed to know that? I'm just reading what's on the I'm just reading what I'm seeing, okay? I don't go ahead and read the periods in front of initials, or else every time I just force you to say D.C. Would you like that? I don't think so. I wouldn't like that.
D.C. You can smell the star. Same thing.
I'll take one more question because I think this is an important one. According to Afro, you promised a Venti cosplay. So when are we getting a Venti cosplay?
Well, if the shipping in this country fixes itself, I'm getting swarmed by schoolworks. I'll be honest with you. I'm looking for a supplier, like a proper supplier. So, like I kind of want to look for a cosplay that's the one that you can pull apart. So like maybe you can wear the shorts like as just a regular thing, or you can wear like the blouse as a regular thing, something like that. I have the wig here, but I haven't seen like a really good place to buy.
Wait, so are you looking for a customized one, or are you looking for are you okay with something that's kind of like already made?
Oh, I'm okay with already made. I don't mind.
Oh, okay.
Capital T.
Interesting. I may or may not be able to help you with that, but we'll talk later about this. That's a story for another day. Okay, so
one day you guys will get your Venti cosplay.
Yeah, so one day. So we're gonna end the question segment here. So Aster, where can we find you and where can we find your content?
Oh, if you just go on YouTube, just chill with Aster, and if you find like a bunch of other with Asters there, don't worry, that's all me, all part of the plan for world domination. On Twitter, same handle, chill with Aster. If you find me anywhere else, that's some brownie points.
Okay. And are you like are you just can we find you hanging around here, or do you get are you like a nomad? You just go from place to place spreading the word of lore? Scaramouche.
I usually well, right now at the moment, because Discord is my primary platform for classes, so I'm kind of scared. Um
Really?
I I'll,
Wow.
I'll be lurking, yeah. All my teachers use Discord, and I don't think I'm ready for that.
You're
To like
kidding.
rename myself. I'm not. Yeah, they all use Discord. Like that's the only like I don't use Discord a lot, but so the only reason I actually use Discord is for my classes. So
I
uh
would recommend you create an alt account for that.
oh yeah, I was
Just
considering.
personal. I have another story for that. I'll tell another time if you ask me personally. But I recommend you create an alt account when dealing with any person you're gonna be looking at face to face, because they will have a lot of questions for you, as they did with myself. When I didn't exactly think about what banner I was having. So
Oh
that's
no, what
my advice to all of you. Make an alt if you're going to use Discord, because this is not an endorsement of any of my own suggested actions, but if you're gaming, make sure to turn that off. Like, turn the activity
Oh
off
my
so that
god.
they don't know. And if you're listening to music, just make sure Spotify thing is off too, and always set your status to invisible. You didn't hear that from me. This is not
No.
advice. This is not this
Was
is
it
not
spoken from
legal
experience?
advice.
Hmm?
Ask me in my next podcast. So
I got a message like whoever the next guest star is. Hey, I have a question.
yeah, or you can ask that question on Twitter. Hashtag one more cup, and coffee and culture. Okay, great, awesome. Well, Aster, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure having you, and I had a lovely conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to add out there, or you'd like to let the people know about?
Nothing much. Thanks for having me, and y'all have a good one. Don't stay up too late, and remember to ask DC on the next episode for that wonderful story.
I have no idea what you're talking about. But in any case, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you're watching from YouTube, thank you so much. Please check us out. We are Coffee and Culture. You can find us on Discord in the links below. For those of you who are already listening, you're already here, so well done. You've finished step one. So I hope to see you guys on the next one. And in the moment, I don't know who the next guest is, but we'll definitely get to that soon. This has been One More Cup of Coffee. I've been your host, DC. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And Aster, once again, thank you so much for coming here as a guest. We'll see you all on the next one, and I hope you guys enjoy what's to come. We'll see you later. And actually, as the Truman Show says, have a good morning, have a good afternoon, and what does he say, Aster? What does he say?
No, I only know about the big sky thing.
What the heck? I thought you watched the Truman Show.
I only know that he tried to go outside and then he got bumped. I watched the recaps.
Okay, so think about it. He says, have a good morning, have a good... Oh, someone spoiled it. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Yeah,
Chat
and
got me. If no one got me, chat got me.
And a good night. All right, guys.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you on the next